singing. Does that make sense to you? That's why I like to use that word rather than posture. So I'm going to kind of give you a brief synopsis of what occurs in the body. The breathing mechanism is the lungs. We all understand that, right? We take air into our body, which goes into our lungs. This thing called diaphragm, which actually sits fairly high. People think about the diaphragm and they think down here. That's not where the diaphragm lives. The diaphragm actually in the resting position is way up in here. As we inhale, the diaphragm drops, or because the diaphragm drops, we inhale. The chicken or the egg, we don't really know what happens first. So the diaphragm drops. The ribs actually move up like this. As the diaphragm drops, the ribs move up, and they also expand this way, right? So if we're looking at the body 3D, there's movement here, but there's also opening. Does that make sense to everybody? This is important because breath is the single most important element to singing, right? Because singing, moving sound is air. That makes sense, coming out of our body, right? So the ability to take a quality breath and use that air in singing is very, very important. So if I am trying to take a quality breath and I'm standing like this, or I'm standing like this, it's very difficult, isn't it, right? Does it make sense to you? So that's why alignment is an important thing. Basically what we want to do is have the outside of our feet about shoulder width apart. I like to have one foot slightly in front of the other, but that's a personal preference. So Mimi, I think that your feet are a little too far apart. Okay, there you go, good. Okay, that all looks good, great. We want to have our hip joints released and our knees released. I am double jointed in my knees. How many of them are, is that the case? So if you see, kind of it's hard to tell with these pants. But see, I can see how far back I can take my knee. You're probably double jointed. We have to, those of us that are double jointed, we have to feel, so put your knees all the way back. Yeah, you're probably the only one. You might be too, right? So those of us that are double jointed, we're gonna feel almost like we're squatting because this feels very comfortable. Does that feel comfortable to you? Yeah, it feels very comfortable to me too. So we want to have a slightly athletic position, so the knees want to be slightly bent and loose. How many of you hula hoop? You all know what a hula hoop is? It was a big thing when I was your age. It's not such a big thing anymore. We didn't have things like cell phones, so hula hoops were the big rage. So knees slightly bent. The other aspect, and this is more true for women than men, is that we want to have a slight pelvic tilt forward. See how I'm tilting my pelvis forward? It's not uncommon for young ladies to stand like this. Particularly in American culture, it's not so true in European cultures, right? So we want to be slightly tucked. It feels a little uncomfortable, doesn't it, Harriet? It's like, wow, this feels strange. But that gives me that proper alignment. For guys, we tend to overextend the front of our chest, which means I'm collapsing my back, right? So we have to be pretty careful of that. If we think of lifting, everybody kind of put your hands on your ribs here. If we think of lifting the whole torso here, rather than in the front here, we get a better place. Okay, good. I think you need to bend your knees just a little bit more. Okay, that looks good. You too, Harriet. You're just there. You go. I know it feels awkward. I'm sorry for that. I wish I could make it not feel awkward. But it's important that our stance is good. Now, the trick is, I want each of you to line up. I'm going to stand with a wide stance like this, and I want you to just come and give me a push. No, just over in front. So you all take turns. You all get to push me. So if you get mad at me later, then this is your opportunity to. Oh, I'm just kidding. All right, so just give me a push. Okay. See it? I'm going over pretty easily. There was not much. You didn't have to push me very hard.
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to do this twice, so you're going to push me when I have proper alignment here. Okay. It's fun. How often do you get to push teacher? Do you have to push me harder? You didn't have to push me.
Okay.
There you go. There we go. All right. See, you go over pretty easily. Isn't this fun? Ooh, that's a forceful push. So I'm going to get mad at you later. No, just kidding. That's good. All right. Okay, so it doesn't take very much, right? Okay, good. And last but not least, you'll get to start this next round, so just kind of stay right there. Okay. So you didn't take very much, right? So now I'm going to give myself proper alignment. So my feet aren't so wide apart. I'm going to tilt my pelvis and go ahead and push me down. That's right. So you went a lot harder and I didn't go anywhere, right? You can go harder. So it takes quite a bit of effort. You can go back now, right? So we're going to do this again so you can all feel this. It's so important that we feel grounded. Okay. Feel that resistance? And I'm not actually trying. There you go. I'm not trying to resist you. It's just that my body is much firmer into the ground. Oh, there you go. He didn't do very hard, but it was a progressive one. He just kept pushing. You feel that? Okay, I got it ready for this one because he pushed hard. See?
Okay.
All right, there you go. Okay, great. Okay. Okay, good. So what did you all notice? The difference between the two. Was there a difference? Anybody not feel a difference? Okay, now we're going to, do we have enough to pair? 1, 2, 4, 6. Yeah, we do. Okay. So you two pair up, you two pair up, you two pair up, and you two pair up. We're going to do that back and forth. So face each other. Okay, so have a really wide stance or a really narrow stance. It can be either. And then go ahead and gently, I don't want anybody to get injured here, okay? Gently push your colleagues. Yes, please. Okay, perfect. Perfect. Okay.
Wow, that was...
Okay. And then take a proper alignment position and do the same thing, okay?
Yeah. Okay. Your shoulders just like walking down.
Okay. So what do we feel? What did we notice? So from the person that received the blow, what did you notice? The push. Received the blow. What did you notice?
When she pushed me.
When you were not grounded.
It was just kind of like.
Yeah, your body can't resist it. And then how about when your feet were?
It was resistant.
Yeah, there's a sense of strength.
Yeah.
Same thing?
Yeah, but especially the knees. The knees give a lot of support.
Right, they do. And if the knees are bent, the pelvis is probably going to be in the right place too. How about you?
Yeah, I noticed when I wasn't as grounded, I just kept flailing on back, and then
Right.
when I became more grounded, it was less of a shift.
Okay.
Same.
Same?
When I was going to push, it was kind of like I felt like
It's just like no resistance.
Yeah.
Okay. And how about when you were aligned up properly?
Yeah, I felt like I had better stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
I felt like she could do anything to me if I wasn't grounded properly. So I felt like she could just like tap me and I
And you would have gone over. How about when you were grounded? Did you feel that same sense of insecurity, or did you feel that you had more strength in your body?
felt like I had a little more strength.
Okay. How about you two gentlemen here?
Same thing.
Yeah? Yeah. Why is this important with singing? Why am I taking the time to go over this?
When you're grounded, it helps your sound, like projection-wise and tone-wise, whereas you would not have like an airy sound, and it supports it.
Yeah, it'll certainly help that, absolutely. I also think that if we feel solid and grounded, there's a more of a sense of security in our bodies. So not only physically do we feel stronger, but our psychology feels stronger. Does that make sense to you? So I think that's really important. All right, so let's practice that alignment. Let's stand that way. And we're just going to do, let's do a 5-note scale. We'll do, how about, ba, 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 ba. So everyone check themselves. I find you probably have double jointed knees too. You got to feel like you're just bending a little bit, okay? Good. Let's try that and see what happens. Someone have a question? No? Do you notice a difference? Some of these differences are pretty subtle. Yes. Oh, okay. If you want to, go for it. We're going to be doing more talking right now than warm-ups, but you're absolutely welcome. I wasn't sure if this was a good situation for you, if you want to lean like when I'm talking and you don't, you can lean that.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right.
Carrying out my comfort.
Okay. This, by the way, in auditions, I'm going to talk about this a little bit. The single most important person in an audition, other than you, is the person behind the keyboard. right? The orchestra. And you need to learn how to make a good relationship with them in about 15 seconds. And we'll talk a little bit about that, okay? So I might throw some questions your way.
Glad
you
you
feel
happy.
okay? Okay, good. So one of the difficult things about physicality is like we get to this place and we feel like we've achieved something, then we do something we call locking, right? We get there and we hold. Unfortunately, holding is not a good thing for singing. Does that make sense to you? So this position has to be dynamic rather than static. Do you all understand the difference between something that's dynamic means it's ever changing? Static, it's becomes stiff, right? So as we're singing, we have to allow our body to move. If I'm singing and I feel tight somewhere, I'm going to take a step, right? One of the great things about being in a musical or in an opera is that we're not just stuck in place. We get to move around a little bit, okay? When you're doing recital work or auditions where you're not supposed to move around a whole lot, that's where we tend to get stuck a little bit. We'll be talking a little bit about that today. Does that make sense to you all? Okay, let's do, how about 1, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We'll do an O vowel. Let's try that. So let's get our feet set up and our alignment set up.
Middle feet?
Yeah, start in the same. Sorry, I just on my bed. So let's hear that. And we'll do bo. Everybody together. Bo. Some of you guys will touch you a little bit. You're a little stiff here. If I say something and you don't understand it, just ask me. I'm used to working with college kids, so I might say things that you don't understand, and that's absolutely okay to ask me. It challenges me to use different words. And one of the reasons I like doing classes like this is that I'm learning too. I learn hopefully as much from you as you're going to learn from me. And I say it, I know I'm going to learn a lot today. My hope is that you guys learn a lot today too. Does that make sense? Okay, good. Let's, I just want to check our time. Almost 11:30? Okay. Let's do one more exercise. Let's start at C, the octave above. And we'll just do a lip trill on the way down. Everybody together. Good, let's go back to C. Now we're going to do bri, bre, blah, boo, boo. It's hard. Bri, bre, blah, boo, boo. Up past that. Bri, bre, blah, boo, boo. One more. Bri, bre, blah, boo, boo. Good. You all feel warmed up? More so than you were here earlier. Okay, great. All right, so who's, you guys can put your shoes on, those that you took them off. Who's my first victim? All right, great. And I say victim with a sense of humility. Yes, yeah. So, one of the things that I think is important to understand about a masterclass environment is that if you guys stay active while the person up here is singing and being worked with, you probably will learn more sitting there than you will up here. Because when you're up here, you're really nervous, you're trying to listen to what I'm saying and trying to do things that are maybe a little outside of your comfort zone, and so our ability to receive information is less. So my encouragement to all of you is to stay active. I don't know, I just might turn and ask somebody a question. I'm like, well, what did you think of that sound? So if you're not paying attention, then you won't be able to answer me, okay? Can we agree to that? Okay, great. So go ahead and, so I'm going to use the terminology called slating. Do you all know what slating is? It's an acting term. Anybody not know what that is? It's okay if you don't. Great. So you're going to tell me your name, the song you're going to sing, and who the composer is, right? Slating. Okay? Great.
What are you doing? Okay. Break it in for me, right? Otherwise the pages stay open. I mean, look. You're cool boy.
My name is Caitlin Griswold, and I'll be singing Alma del Corte by Antonio Caldara.
Good. So do you mind if I use you right away as a little bit of a guinea pig?
Yeah, go for
So
it.
good. Because I know I've worked with you a little bit already.
Yeah.
So the most important thing in an audition, well, I shouldn't say that, there are a lot of important things. One of the most important things in an audition is saying your name clearly and concisely. If you're in a large room like this, in your audition experience, you'll be in small rooms, you'll be in big rooms, you're going to be in a bunch of different venues. If I don't get, I might have 100 resumes sitting in front of me. If you don't take the time to clearly tell me what your name is, to be honest with you, I'm not going to spend the time to hunt through those resumes to find you. So, because that already is indicating to me this person doesn't care enough to make me understand what their name is. Does that make sense to everybody? So, what we have to do when we say our name, we're so used to just saying our name. My name is Will Christensen, right? That doesn't mean anything. Right? Does that make sense to you? We have to beat it. We have to give it a beat. So, what's your name?
Caitlin Griswold.
So, Caitlin Griswold. So, say that again, and I'm accenting like I'm singing in beats. Caitlin
Griswold.
Okay, and what are you singing?
Alma del Corte by Antonio Caldara.
Okay, good. See how much different that was? Makes me want to pay attention to her. Okay?
I'll do 4 bars intro instead of the whole 8.
Okay.
If we make you.
So this is something I like to do because I always find it very interesting. I want you to give me 3 things you really enjoyed about your performance just now.
Okay. I wasn't as nervous as I'm going.
Okay, so that's not.
Okay.
That's kind of a negative.
Okay.
I wasn't. All right.
Okay. I liked how
It's hard, right?
Yeah, it's hard.
Now, I'm going to ask you to give me 10 things you didn't like about what you just said.
I messed up the notes.
So, do you see how fast that was? Right? And that's all of us, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right? I'm sitting up here singing, and I go, oh darn, I did that again. Oh darn, I did that. Oh shoot, I messed that up, right? We end up creating a very negative environment for our performing when we do that, right? So I call it walking backwards. Like, how many of you have been to New York? Been on one of the big streets there, you're walking down Broadway. You'll get there someday. It's incredible how many people are there. It's, yellow cabs. It's really an amazing situation. You've been there?
No.
You've been to a busy street someplace, like a street? All right. So you're walking down a busy street, and you suddenly turn around, and you're walking like this. What's going to happen? You're going to hit something.
Yeah.
You're going to fall over. You're going to hit something. And that's exactly what happens when we sing, when we listen to ourselves, right? We're listening to something that's already happened. So it becomes very difficult for us to prepare for the next phrase, for what's coming. So I'm going to ask yourself not to listen to yourself. It's really hard to do. What we need to do is focus on the sensation, what we're feeling in the moment.
Okay.
The physical sensation of singing. That's why when we worked yesterday, I kept asking you, what did that feel like, okay? Because it's important for us. Do you all understand how important that is? And why, as you move forward in your career, in this field, that you have to discipline yourself to think that way, okay? All right, good. So, I want to start again. And what's your first line of text?
Alma del
So, Alma
Alma
del Core.
del Core.
Right, so languaging has syntactical stress. So if we think of a sentence, we have certain words that are more important than other words. Does that make sense to you? And that's actually where the actor comes in. I can choose different words. So my wife has been here in Santa Barbara for 4 weeks, and I've been in Oklahoma City, so while I came here, she's here, so I get to see her, right? First thing I said was, oh, I missed you so much. I could have said it that way, or I could have said, I miss you so much, or I miss you so much, or I miss you so much. I'm giving different stress to words to create a different situation. Does that make sense? Then we also have word stress. Within a word, we have syllabic stress. Does that make sense? If I sing with the wrong syllables like this, no one understands what I'm saying. So in Italian, it's usually the second to the last syllable. It's called the penultimate syllable. In a two-syllable word, it's the first syllable. So we have alma del core.
Del Core.
Right? So let's start with that. Let's see if we can give those notes. Okay?
Yeah, you gotta have to connect with me a little bit so I know when you're gonna sing. Just even if it's an eyebrow, that's all I need.
I want to go over this. I'm glad you brought that up. I forgot your name already. So,
John.
I was going to say Steve. I don't know why I would have said Steve.
That's okay.
Okay, middle name Steve? No?
No, Melvin's my mom.
Okay, Melvin.
Go figure.
So let's agree that we're going to start in something called the crook of the piano, which is right here. It makes it really easy for him, when you take a breath, to see what's happening. All right? If we're way up here, all he sees is the back of my head, right?
Okay.
So this is a nice way to connect, right? You want to make sure that you're facing in such a way that you can see that, okay? So once you get started, you can move around. He really needs that initial beginning, particularly on a piece like this, okay?
Great.
Did that feel different to you at all?
It did, yeah.
Okay, how did it feel different?
It felt more committed.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. Isn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, good. So let's do that again. Say spirito.
Spiritus.
It's spirito, I believe. It's an O vowel, right? And it's an Italian. And this is something too when you learn Italian. There are open and closed O vowels, right? Italians never speak or sing with closed vowels. They just, O vowels. They always are open. And so you'll hear people say, no, that's a closed O vowel. Don't listen to them. It's not spirito, it's spirito, right? So it's a little secret. When I was in Italy, you listen to everybody and they're all open vowels, right? Spirito, It's like if we all say the a father, everyone say a. And then we just round the lips a little bit, o, right? And they don't do diphthongs. They don't do o there. We do that here, o. That's a diphthong, two vowels happening at the same time, right? So spirito.
Spirito.
Let's try that. specifically with you on this phrase since it repeated a whole bunch.
Yes.
Are you afraid of the pitch on spirito?
Sometimes.
Okay,
yes.
why?
Because I'm singing kind of low, and then I jump to, I think it's a G.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's it's a so-called higher note, right?
Yes.
So when I was talking to you earlier about walking backwards, right?
Yeah.
The same thing happens when we think, uh-oh, here comes that note, right? That's a hard note. It takes me out of the moment, right? And we have to just learn to accept what happens, right? We sing with our bodies. What does that mean? We're not machines. We sing with our bodies. Think of any great athlete you know, right? Even the greatest baseball hitters of all time had days where they didn't get a single hit, right? They struck out every time, or they didn't get on base every time. Because our bodies don't always function at an optimal level. So what happens when, I call it targeting, when we think about the negative thing that can happen, or this is a hard note, we're actually creating in our body that negative sensation. Okay, I'm going to demonstrate this to everybody. You'll have to do this with me, okay? So you guys can think about anything you want to right now. You can think about, I don't know, what are you going to have for lunch? What's your favorite dessert, right? Do you all have a pet at home? When you get home, you're going to play with them or take them for a walk, right? Think about something really joyful. The one thing you cannot think about right now is your tongue in your mouth. What do we all just think about? And that's what happens when okay, here comes that high note, here comes that hard note. We're actually creating the situation in our body that's going to make that note not function properly.
Okay.
So it's a negative situation. So when you are singing, when you're taking lessons, what's the successful way you approach that note? When that note is really fantastic, what do you think about? How does that happen?
I lift my soft palate here, and I'm supporting more and trying to also relax at the same time.
Okay, so that's what I want you to think about. We're going to do that. We'll do the second alma del core, and I just want you to focus on those things right now.
Okay.
When that happens, and then when we finish, you'll be able to tell me if you were successful in those endeavors. Okay, so let's try that one more time. The second alma del core.
I'll do partly four.
Talk to me about that. Did you achieve those goals?
Yeah, I feel like they were I don't know what the word is. I can't think of it, but it felt better.
Felt better?
I was
Okay.
as worried about it.
Right.
But I also still kind of was, because I was trying to.
It's like, oh, he picked that note out. Why? Yeah. So let's do it again and just lose all of that inhibition.
Okay.
All right. It's so important, you guys, that since this is an audition masterclass, that's what I'm going to be talking about. If this were an audition, we're not. If I'm sitting at OCU and I'm listening to, you're one of 600 people I'm listening to over the course of a year. I'm not expecting you to be perfect, because I know that's not going to happen. I listen to 600 people. None of them are perfect. None of them are perfect, right? So we strive to achieve something that is not possible. There is no such thing as a perfect sound. Yeah? Now, there's sounds that are better than others, and I understand that, but we're creating a situation that we're bound to fail. So just free yourself up, and what comes out is what comes out. When you're performing, we really have to be in the moment. Do you know what all these words mean? The Italian? No, the Italian words that you're singing.
Yeah, it's soul of the heart.
It's like, or it is?
It is.
Okay, and do you have an other that you can say these words to? Because this is a love song, right?
I mean, not particularly. But
Okay, have you in your life?
Yes.
Okay, so we have to draw from our own experience so that you're also connecting to a real event. Okay? So we're not going to worry about that right now. We're going to do that phrase one more time. And this time when you get there, just maybe take a step, just loosen your body up, and we're not going to worry about anything except what that feels like when you open up into that sound. Okay? Good doesn't help us, right? Good is just kind of a generic term. Specifically, did that feel better to you than the sound you did before, which wasn't a bad sound, but I agree this was a better sound.
Yeah, I took your advice and just kind of let it all all the other factors, being stressed about hitting that note, kind of dissipate and just focus on kind of freeing myself.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And you guys, I cannot stress how important that is when you're auditioning or performing, that you take that opportunity to just be free, right? It's your opportunity to connect with me as an auditionee, as an auditioner, as I'm listening to you, right? Or your audience, okay?
Okay.
Good. Can we go to the B section real quick?
Yeah.
We're at time. Okay. Well, so let me let's not go to the B section. I want you to hold. You want to do the B section? All right.
Yeah.
Let's do the B section. So take these things to the B section. We have to give ourselves permission, active permission to fail. And that's really hard, right? But you have to give yourself permission to fail. And that allows the body to free up when you do that.
Okay.
Okay? So give yourself permission to fail. Say, it's okay if I don't sing this perfectly.
It's okay if I don't sing.
Yeah. So let's enjoy it. Let's try it. B
Sarah,
section.
contento, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and then we'll have to close this up pretty quick.
Yeah.
So I want you to, if I let you fall backward on those shoes, you're going to hold my wrist. Are they going to stay on the ground, or do you want to take them off real quick? Take them off.
Yeah, that's
Real
probably
quick.
a good idea.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. Maybe I can get them.
Ungraceful. I apologize for making you do that.
No, it's fine. I don't like shoes.
Okay. So I want you to take your watch off too. So you're going to hold mine. Put your hands flat like that. You're going to hold, and I'm going to hold. You're not going to fall over. I will not let you fall. Okay? You understand that?
Yes.
All right. I deadlift 400 pounds. I'm not going to let you fall over. Okay? So I just want you to let your body be loose. We're going to do that. So you grab me though. You hold me. Okay? All right. So go. Same place.
Am I singing?
Yep. You're singing. Don't do that. Let me hold you. Good. Let's do the Sequo del Labro, and just keep your feet planted. And then just let your body fall, all right? It's going to feel strange.
Yeah.
It's okay. I just want you to feel release in your body. So I don't want you to bend like this when you go over. So you're going to just be like a board, okay? There you go. Let's do that again, same place. How relaxed can you be? So what did that feel like?
That was like interesting.
Yeah.
It was kind of a challenge to like stay relaxed because I mean like.
If you're afraid you're going to fall over.
Yeah, I know I'm not, but like
Yeah.
it's still like
Yeah.
a concern.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. But I see like the idea of trying to be relaxed. So I was trying to like think about that while I was singing.
Right. You have a little bit of a tendency to over grab in the back. And so what happens is your head pulls up a little bit and your tongue retracts. We talked about this a little bit yesterday.
Yeah.
So these are all things you're going to continue to work
Yes,
on. But
definitely.
so I'm going to do that section again. And this time when you go to the high notes, I just want you just to let your body, I'm going to be behind you and I'm just going to do this. And every time I do this, I want you to think of plie-ing down and just you're releasing all the tension in your body down. Okay? So you're going to face this way. All right, same place. Really do it. I was behind her a little bit. Was that a different sound on the top than she sang before?
Yes.
Okay. So what did that feel like to you?
That felt better. That felt like the plieing, that concept, I guess, really clicks for me because every time I do that, it sounds better. It sounds
Right.
more relaxed, more open.
And what happens in your body? Obviously, you can't do that in an audition, right?
Oh, yeah.
So this is something you practice to achieve what?
Like more support down here.
You're
'cause that
grounding.
helps. Yeah,
You're grounding.
grounding.
You're
That's
not
it.
coming up, right?
Exactly.
So the tendency when we come up is the hips pull up like this.
Mm-hmm.
We lose that physical poise here. So you tend to do this a little bit.
Yeah.
And so the support system gets all wonky. It still works, it still functions, but
Yeah.
it's not as efficient as,
Okay.
as it can. So what are you walking away with today?
I'm walking away with the idea of like staying grounded and being more relaxed when I am singing those high notes or I'm making that really big jump and just
Yeah.
trying to like not really focus on it because if I focus on it then it does become like the whole negative aspect of it that is a really big concept for me that like I definitely agree with, and I know I have like kind of.
We all
like,
do.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
So I want to just
that's-
clarify a couple of things. That when we're practicing, that's the time to do that. That's the time to self-assess and to really work on those issues.
Okay.
Right? When you're performing, we can't do that. We can't self-assess because it's already happened. So what happens is our brain actively stops and we're looking backwards. So when we're performing, we're just looking at what's coming. If you make a mistake, I've cracked in front of 5,000 people before. It is not fun, believe me. You can hear the audience go, right? There's that audible gasp, and you just go, okay, I've got a whole opera to sing. How am I going to deal with this?
Yeah.
Right? And you just have to go on. You have to go forward. Okay. So we all make mistakes. It's not a question of making a mistake. It's how we deal with that. So that's why you have to look forward. Okay. Good. Fantastic. Thank you for singing for me today. Who's next? So any questions? Okay, fantastic. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Harriet Chilton. I'm 12 years old, and I will be singing "Ho, Mr. Piper" by Pearl G. Kern.
Thank you.
Oh, Mr. Piper, will you play for me? I shall be as grateful as I can be. For they tell me when you play, fairies sometimes dance. If I'm very quiet, they may come today perchance. It will be so wonderful, such a sight to see. Oh, Mr. Piper, come and play for me. Now I see the fairies coming, here they are at last. Isn't it just lots of fun to see them skipping past? One has fallen over, he was running far too fast. Oh, Mr. Piper, I didn't think they'd hear. All the dainty little things begin to disappear. But it was so funny when the fat one bowed so low, and to see the fairy queen point her tiny toe. Well, they are gone, I too shall run away. Thank you, Mr. Piper, I'll bid you good day.
Okay, I'm going to ask you the same question. So give me 3 things you just enjoyed about what you sang. It's hard, isn't it? How about 5 things you didn't like about what you just did?
I had kind of an airy sound, I thought.
Okay. All right. So do you understand? Why is this important? Why am I asking what you liked first? What do you think? I'm putting you on the spot. Sorry about that. Why is it important? Somebody offer me some thoughts. You guys are all so passive. Yeah, please.
Because all I keep thinking about is kind of what they're doing wrong. They should think about what they're doing next.
Okay.
So we try to figure out what they're doing right first. Yes.
I even want to go back further. Okay, go ahead. You're right. Absolutely.
I also feel like you sing and you should enjoy it. That's why you're singing. So if you don't enjoy it and if you're just constantly mulling about what you did wrong, you're kind of not getting the point.
Yeah, bingo. To me, why do we do this? Why do I teach? Right? Because I love it. I perform because I love it. Now, I'm intensely critical of my own singing when I'm learning something because I want to be as close to perfect as I can be. There's nothing wrong with that. But if I don't just adore the act of performing, learning music, getting in front of people and doing that, then chances are I should probably pick something out. else to do in my life, right? So we have to keep that part of our love. Why do you like to sing? What is it about singing that you like?
Because I feel good when I sing.
Okay, so you like the physical sensation of it, right? So that's what you need to focus on when you're in front of people. And it's really easy to get that kind of self-critique going. And I'm not necessarily saying that's a bad thing, but we also have to remember why we're doing this, right? For me, it's communicating. And I thought you did a lovely job with that. I understood the text. I got the idea that you were being playful. I liked very much what you just did. Only 12 to have such a good high note like that, that's fantastic. That's really good. Do you understand that? That's really good? Okay. I would like you to be a little bit more playful. Can we start this again? And I want you to, so you have, let me get the music here real quick. We have, whenever we perform with a piano, we have two elements, right? You have your element, and then you have what the collaborative pianist is doing. And the piano, I think, is a character in this piece. You know what I mean by a character? It's probably the piper, don't you think? Right? So I want you to sense what the pianist is doing and to react to it. It's the piper calling you, okay? You're asking him if he's going to play, or her. I guess piper could also be a her. So use that. Let's see what happens. We're going to play with that a little bit. Is that okay with you? Okay, good. Let's start from the very beginning again. Hear that piper calling.
Oh, Mr. Piper, will you play for me? I shall be as grateful as I can be. For they tell me when you play, fairies sometimes dance. If I'm very quiet, they may come today perchance.
All right, good, good. So, for they tell me when you play, fairies sometimes dance, right? So that's what you're hoping is going to happen, that you'll see the little fairies. So this little thing here, poco retard, I think we want to feel this. This is a word, fairies, that we don't use a lot in our language. And also, if we're not careful, it can have a negative connotation too, right? We don't have to worry about that with this because obviously it doesn't have that. But you want to really make sure that word is understandable, okay? Can we start at for they tell me? And I'm a big believer in this, that WH words, most of them, require an aspiration. So say when.
When?
So we're going to put a little bit of an H in that sound, a little bit of air through that. When, as opposed to when. Okay? So say when.
When?
So we're going to say, for they tell me when you play. Can we try that? Can you give it a bit? Sorry.
Oh, yeah, I don't know if you want to read it out.
For they tell me when you play, fairies sometimes dance.
Good, not bad. So, for they tell me when you play, fairies sometimes dance. Be really, you know the word coquettish? That's a big $10 word. Be very kind of flirtatious with that. Fairies come and dance. It's really cute. It's a very cute little piece. Can you try that for me? For when they tell me?
For they tell me when you play, fairies sometimes dance.
Good. Go on.
If I'm very quiet, they may come today perchance.
Good. So what did that feel like to you?
Better.
I like better. But why was that better?
Because it just felt more expressive.
It was more expressive. Did we feel a difference out there? How was it different?
More joyful, more of an adventure, more exciting, like you're into it.
And more playful. You get the idea. It fits the song a little bit, right? And that's our job. Our primary job as singers is to communicate the thoughts and ideas that are in the text that we sing. So I thought you did that lovely. I mean, I thought you did a really good job with this anyway. I'm just kind of giving you some highlights to approach. All right? Good. Can we go to the high note, which I thought you did really well. I saw that it was an alternate note, and you went ahead and went for it. So good for you. So can we start at the bottom of the page 41? Isn't it just lots of fun to see them skipping past?
Isn't it just lots of fun to see them skipping past? One has fallen over. He was running far too fast.
Good. Can we play with that note a little bit? All right. Are you okay with that? I'm going to ask you, can I ask you to take your shoes off? I want to do the same thing I did You have a slight tendency when you go to the high note, because we call it a high note, right? You understand that it's not, it doesn't, the note itself doesn't understand high or low. It's just simply a faster or slower vibration. So the vocal folds are either functioning faster or slower to make that pitch. It's not higher or lower. This, in other words, doesn't go higher for a high note or lower for a low note. So, but because of the way it's marked on the page, right? The high note is high, the low note's low. In original notation, it was the opposite, which is kind of an interesting thought, if that would have stayed that way. I don't know if it would have changed the way we think about singing, maybe. All right, so you're going to grab my wrist. Can you take your little bracelet off there? Okay, so you're going to hold your hands like that and grab my wrists. All right, step a little away from the piano. And just before we sing, just let your body go. All right? See, she does this. You fought me the whole time, right? I will not let you fall, okay? Do you believe that? I'm not going to let you fall. So let's sing that phrase, that same phrase we were just on. And you're just going to stay down here, okay? Just stay all the way down. Let me hold you.
Isn't it just
Is it? Yeah.
Isn't it just lots?
Isn't it just lots of fun to see them skipping past? One has
Stay down, stay down. One has fallen.
One has fallen over. He was running far too fast.
Good. What did that feel like, the high note? That feel more relaxed, more released, all right? The whole purpose of that, by the way, is not that you don't want to sing like that. It doesn't really work, right? But her tendency and your tendency is to pull up a little bit. So if I'm taking my alignment and I do this, I'm changing my physical alignment. So this time we're going to do that without me almost making you fall over. And I want you just to feel like you're dropping when you get to fast. Okay, can you do that for me? Same place again, okay? I'll drop with you.
Isn't it just lots of fun to see them skipping past? One has fallen over. He was running far too fast.
Oh, that was nice. Same thing on O. Oh, right there, go. Good. How did that feel? I'm gonna touch your back for a second. When you do that, we're gonna do that again. I don't want you to see you're kind of doing this a little bit. I just want you to bend at the knees. Okay? We'll do that one more time. O. Can you play the G chord? I'm sorry. I'm making you.
No, fine, we're good. We're good.
O. Good. Did that feel different at all to you? How did it feel different?
Felt clearer.
Clearer? Did it feel clearer, or did you think it sounded clearer?
Thought it sounded.
Okay, so good. I think it was. How about it? How did it feel to you? Could you tell did it feel different in here at all, in your body?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Like I was less tense.
Less tense, okay. Tension is the enemy of release. So everyone take your right arm, and I want you to do this as hard as you can, like you're going to give blood. You know, you have to do that when you give blood, right? So if I'm doing that, I can't be released, can I? If I'm tense, I can't be released. If I'm released, I can't be tense, right? In singing, we want to be as released as possible. Within the actual makeup of producing the sound, there's a certain amount of physical energy that's required. But after that, we want to be released, and I thought you did that quite well, all right? Where are we time-wise?
We're good. I actually made a mistake on the schedule, so we're okay.
Okay.
Do like a couple more minutes.
Okay. What I'd like you to do is sing the whole piece again for me, trying to remember those little things we incorporated. So when you go to the high note, I just want you to feel like you're dropping, and go ahead and plie down a little bit. I want you to be very flirtatious when you talk about the fairies that you want to come and see dance. Okay? Can we try that? All of those things? And just let yourself have fun with this piece. Okay? You sound great. You sound really fantastic. Okay? So let's see what happens.
Oh, Mr. Piper, will you play for me? I shall be as grateful as I can be. For they tell me when you play, fairies sometimes dance. If I'm very quiet, they may come today perchance. just lots of fun to see them skipping past. One has fallen over, he was running far too fast.
Nice.
Oh, Mr. Piper, I didn't think they'd hear.
Listen your head up.
All the dainty little things begin to disappear. But it was so funny when the fat one bowed so low. Then to see the fairy queen point her tiny toe. Well, they are gone, I too shall run away. Thank you, Mr. Piper, I'll bid you good day.
Good. Now I want you to give me 2 things you really enjoyed about what you just did.
I liked how I was less tense
Okay.
and I was more expressive.
Okay. I like those things too. All right. So, what are you walking away with? What did you just learn?
To be more relaxed when I sing.
Which is really hard to do when you're in front of people, isn't it? It's like an oxymoronic thing because we're nervous. What if I make a mistake? These people don't like me. All those things that we think about, right? And so we have to learn to harness that a little bit, harness the sense of nervousness, and think of it as a positive thing, which is really hard to do, but it's really important. We all get nervous. In fact, one of the things I say to myself is that the first time I perform and I'm not nervous is the day I stop singing, because it means I don't care anymore, right? But I've learned to take that energy, that nervous energy, if we just think of it as energy as opposed to something that's not good, and we can use it. We can use that for ourselves, okay? Great. You're really talented. Thank you for singing for me today. You can sing whatever you want to sing. I have students that bring me country songs, rock songs. All sing.
Okay. My name is Mimi Vorosmarthy, and I'm singing For Good from the musical Wicked, and it's written by Stephen Schwartz. I've heard it said that people come into our lives for a reason, bringing something we must learn, and we are led to those who help us most to grow if we let them, and we help them in return. Well, I don't know if I believe that's true, but I know I'm who I am today because I knew you. Sorry, I forgot the lyric. Like a comet pulled from orbit as it passes a sun, like a stream that meets a boulder halfway through the wood. Who can say if I've been changed for the better? But because I knew you, I have been changed for good. It well may be that we will never meet again in this lifetime. So let me say before we part, so much of me is made of what I learned from you. You'll be with me like a handprint on my heart. And now whatever way our stories end, I know you have rewritten mine by being
I guess you know there's blame to share, and none of it seems to matter anymore. Like a ship blown from its mooring by a wind of the sea, like a seed dropped by a skybird halfway through the wood. Who can say if I've been changed for the better? Because I knew you. Because I knew you. Because I knew you. I have been changed for good.
We had some stuff at the end there.
Okay, so how long have you been working on this piece?
I didn't know I was coming to this workshop until
Okay.
last night.
Okay, so this is a new song for you?
No, I've known it before, but I've always done it as a duet, never as a solo.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So I'm going to talk about it. I'm not going to pick on you,
Sure.
but you might feel like I'm picking on you, okay? One of the important things about auditioning is that you really, really know your material. Because in an audition, I'm going to sense it all if you're uncomfortable up here. So you have to know this material backwards, forwards, sideways, upside down, so that if we stop you and say, oh, can you start on this phrase? You can immediately do that, because it happens sometimes, particularly with the second piece in an audition. You have to know it so well that you don't have to think about it. Does that make sense to you? Also, it gives you a level of comfort. It takes that, those nerves I was talking about that are up here and get even higher. If you're auditioning for this is the school I absolutely have to get into, the nerves are higher because the stakes are higher. Does that make sense? So you have to know the material a little bit better than that. And I understand I'm not getting that, or I'm just helping you, know what you have to do to make the audition happen, okay, and to be successful with it, okay? Also, why this song? I think that's another important thing that we have to talk about as artists for an audition. Why am I singing this song for this audition? So what is it about this song that makes you have to sing it?
This one sits quite comfortably in my range, I'd say.
Okay.
In comparison to a lot of songs.
Okay.
And also just the feel of the song is really nice.
Okay.
And I just really like the melody.
Okay. Those are good reasons, but I think that when we sing, I do think that material needs to be comfortable. I think of the biggest mistake that young performers make is they sing their hardest things in an audition. And what you show me when you, I'll be saying this later too, when I give my little talk, but when you sing your most difficult piece in an audition, you're actually showing me what you can't do, as opposed to what you can do. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So I appreciate that. But I also think that there has to be a connection. You have to have something in the song that makes you have to sing it. And what I mean by that is it's almost like a life or death situation. If I don't sing this song, I'm going to die. If I don't eat this food, I'm not going to live. It has to be that intense for you. So you have to find something in this text that you have to communicate to me as an audience, right? Does this piece have that for you?
Kind of.
Kind of. That's not a good answer. That's a sideways answer, right? It either does or it doesn't. Do you understand that?
It does, but it's not extremely strong.
Okay. So my suggestion to you, and we're going to work on this in a second, but is that you find pieces that you just connect to, like, so when you sing it, it's almost like you're talking to, I don't know what you think about religiously, but the creator, the essence of why we are humans, right? So that it's just that intense and personal to you, okay? So, and that's not this piece, and I think you need to find something that does that for you. And it can be, I don't care what the piece is. I'm going to feel if you're connected like that to this piece, to the piece that you're performing. I'm going to sense that and know that this is an important piece to you, okay? So what I'd like to do is go to the section that gets a little bit higher at the end.
No, everything's within the staff.
Yeah, there was one kind of high note that she took. I don't know.
I
notes.
accidentally went on the duet part.
Oh, you went to the high. That's what I
Yeah.
heard. Okay.
I'm sorry.
Well, then let's just start at the very beginning. Okay. And I'm going to stop you quite a bit. Okay.
Okay.
Could I sneak in a little comment just
Please,
as far as
absolutely.
it's an old thing in the opera house that any lights reflect off of plastic. Your intention is good, it's to keep the music clean,
Okay.
but don't put plastic because the lights reflect off it and it's blinding.
So should I just
Just the
re-hold
paper.
it?
Yeah,
Okay.
well, yeah, if you want to do that, but just don't use plastic
Got
because it resonates in our eyes. If that's,
it. Sorry.
that's okay.
I've heard it
Okay, so I'm
said.
going to talk about, it's all right, the very beginning, all right? This is such a singer thing you just did, so I'm going to use you as an example. It's like, okay, go ahead and start. Okay, this isn't important because it's just the collaborative pianist playing. Okay, I don't come in yet, so it's not important. Okay, here's where I sing. No, this is you. The minute that starts, that's you, right? The composer took the time, Stephen Schwartz took the time to write this. That's you. In this case, it's a duet, I understand that. But you have to be alive when that happens, right? You owe it to this person to let their musicality come forward like that. Okay, so let's try that again.
I've heard it said that people come into our lives for a reason.
Okay, so I want to do one more thing. Just speak that text for me as a monologue. What you just sang, just speak it.
I've heard it said that people come into our lives for a reason.
Okay, I think, so are you aware that you gave me different syntactical stress when you said it than versus when you sang it? So I think we have to match that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's also, I think this, I don't know your voice very well, but I think it sits too low for you. The voice isn't spinning, it's not resonating on some of these lower notes. So that's something else to think about for an audition. Let's do that beginning again. It's much better, but this time actively listen to what he's playing and think about this character, what she would be doing at this moment in time. What does this music represent in her life? Okay? Let's try it again.
I've heard it said that people come into our lives for a reason, bringing something we must learn, and we are led to those who help us most grow if we let them.
Okay, good. Do you mind if I keep playing with this a little bit?
Sure.
All right. I want to volunteer. Can you come up? What's your name? James, come on up. Yeah, I'm not going to make you do anything foolish, but I do want you on stage. All right? So James, you're going to sit right here, and you are going to say these words to, do you know James? No. Okay, well, this is even better. You're going to communicate these words to him. And when you believe it, James, I want you to have a nice look on your face. When you don't believe what she's saying, I want you to look down like, this is not important. Okay? So your goal here is to make him look up and look happy. Because that's going to mean to us that he's getting what you're saying. Okay? That's the only goal. I don't care about the rhythms. I don't care about the pitches right now. I just want you to communicate these words to him. Okay? So this is your opportunity to communicate these words. So look down, because she hasn't done anything to make you believe anything yet. Okay? So you're looking at him. You're communicating to him, not to this, this window out there. You're communicating
Got
to
it.
him right now. Okay? He's your other.
She's singing now, right?
Yeah.
Barney, come in. You want to do that?
Okay.
I've heard it said that people come into our lives for a reason, bringing something we must learn, and we are led to those who help us most grow if we let them, and we help them in return. Well, I don't know if I believe that's true, but I know I'm who I am today because I knew you.
Gio?
She was sincere.
Okay.
And she felt the words. It's important when you sing that you mean the words that you say, and sometimes in the words there's an insecurity in the words, and so she kind of she did actions to relate to that, which helped a lot.
Okay, good. Was that different? Did you feel that was different? I did, I certainly did. How about you? Did you feel it was different?
It was easier.
Okay. All right, James, thank you so much. Just give James a big round of applause. The hardest thing you've done all day, right there, James. All right. So, I like that statement that was easier. Why was it easier?
Because if you have two people, you get more of an energy bouncing off. And if you're just alone, you don't know if you did something good, you don't know if you messed something up. So it's kind of like an instant feedback.
Right.
That you know what you need to change to get more of a connection.
Right. And that's always a dilemma when we're auditioning, isn't it? Because you're by yourself and you know you're being judged. And that's hard, right? When you go to an audition, the 7 or 8 people sitting out there, we're all on laptops writing in notes, right? What we think about you. And so you're seeing us do that, and in your head you're going, oh, they didn't like that. You have no idea what we're thinking. We could actually be going, where are you going to lunch today? You have no idea actually what we're doing. But we think always the negative, okay? You have to actively have an other when you're on stage. Do you know what I mean by other? Mm-hmm. James was your other here.
Yeah.
You actively have to have that person that you're saying these words to. And what that other is in a situation like this doesn't matter. You could be saying this to in other words, it doesn't have to relate to the story that this comes from. It just has to be real to you. It could be to your mother, it could be to your boyfriend, your girlfriend, to whoever. It doesn't matter as long as it's real, okay? It's much easier when there's someone here. So we're gonna do that again, and I want you to think about for a second who this other could be in your life, and I want this person to be right here. The other tendency that happens is that you get into performance mode and suddenly you're singing like this. Now, if I'm singing the Lord's Prayer, this is a great place to be because we think of God as being up there, right? But if I'm communicating to you, an audience, and I'm doing this, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, does it? So we have to watch that a little bit. You need to, I am a firm believer, and people disagree with this, but if I'm singing, I want to be communicating to you guys. I'm going to be actively looking at you, not staring, because that gets kind of weird, but I'm going to be paying attention to you. Not looking above your heads. I think that's too obvious, okay? Mm-hmm. So communicate to us. Let us be the active other, okay? Let's try it one more time from maybe a measure before G starts.
I've heard it said that people come into our lives for a reason, bringing something we must learn, and we are led to those who help us most to grow. If you let them, and we help them in return. Well, I don't know if I believe that's true, but I know I'm who I am today because I knew you.
Okay, good. So how did that feel to you?
Almost as easy as when he was on stage.
Right. Certainly different than the first time you sang it.
Yeah.
Right? And the other thing I want to acknowledge here is that the first time you get up here, you're nervous, you don't know me, I might yell at you, you don't know, of course I would never yell at you, but there's that sense of nervousness. So anything you do after that first time is probably going to be better, right? Just because of the nature of what we're doing. So I'm acknowledging that. But to me, this was much more interesting than the first time. The first time you were just saying sounds on pitches and with lots of little mistakes in them. And you're actually singing more consistently now. I haven't talked once about her sound quality, but the sound quality has improved as we've worked more intensely in the deliverance of this text. These kind of pieces in auditions, they're not great audition pieces because you're not showing me much vocally. Do you understand that? Yeah. It's kind of all, I call speech belt or speech chest sound, so it's more like you're speaking on pitch, and there's definitely in musical theater, you have to be able to do that. So this is not a style that's, it's an important style. But if you're trying to show me your voice, this isn't a good piece for that, because it's not really showing me anything. It's all kind of sitting more in the speech part of your singing voice rather than up. You want something that goes a little higher, that's maybe a little bit more lyrical, that's got, you know, actual musical phrases. This is all kind of set to speech rhythms.
So even if you're applying for musical, you should still sing.
Absolutely, you need to sing something more in a legitimate style. Now, every school is a little bit different. You need to have a contemporary musical theater style. By the way, this isn't considered contemporary anymore, unfortunately, because contemporary music means now, right? What's being written now, Hamilton, those kind of things.
Yeah.
Please don't do any Hamilton, because that's showing a different style too. But it needs to be something that's within the last 5 years. You know,
Okay.
not from the last 5 years. Okay. All right. So do you feel? What are you walking away with?
A little more confidence knowing that I can make my own kind of person to talk to, and it's like a little easier, I think.
Okay. Yeah. It's important that you take the time to do that. Okay. And pick something that also has some lyricism in it. Okay. All right. Great. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Hi. Little side. I know. Cool. You know what's wrong here? Is the bottom notes are missing. You have the book? Yeah, see? It's supposed to have 5 lines. Let's see. Oh, it was on something. Yeah, see, all the bottom notes are missing. It's okay, I know the song, but just know, always check that out. Yeah, let me take it.
I'm Melodozer, and I will be singing Tu Lo Sai by Giuseppe Torelli.
I'll do a little intro, okay?
All right, Bella, I know if I asked you what you like, you have a hard time.
Nothing.
Yeah. Well, but that's just wrong because you have a beautiful quality to your voice. There's a beautiful, nice, natural spin that's happening, and you have to rely on that, right? This is another unfortunate reality about us as singers. We have reactions to the environment. We call them allergies. That's what happens when we get phlegm and all of that stuff, and it's something that happens to all of us. I was a live outside performance. You think I'm going to share this with you because it's hilarious, but it's also I was on stage when this happened. This baritone and I were singing a duet. This is when I was in Germany 10 lifetimes ago. And we're singing outside with an orchestra, and there's a fly buzzing around. And we're kind of to make sure that, so he takes a big breath to sing, and the fly goes right into his mouth when he took the breath. And he kept going. I was thinking, oh my God, what's going to happen? We're going to have to stop. He just kept singing. I'm thinking, and I'm like this far away from him, and I thought there's going to be some reaction. It's like, wow, like, there's a fly in my mouth. He just kept going like nothing happened, right? And we have to learn that. It's a discipline, and it's really hard, and I understand that. Because what happens is when we have that level of dysfunction, when we have phlegm or stuff caught in here, it feels like two trucks going, right? The reality is it doesn't sound that bad out to the audience. And when we bring attention to it by kind of going darn it, then actually it amplifies it, makes it bigger. The audience tends to know it. Okay. Do you feel okay?
Yeah.
All right. So you're not. I'm
Not sick.
okay. All right. Good. So let's start at the very beginning.
Okay.
These 28 Italian songs now, because I like to use there's 3 different books. There's 24 Italian, 26 Italian, and 28 Italian. Don't get the 26. I hate those accompaniments.
Yep.
Don't get them. Yeah, you
Don't
feel the
pay
same.
attention.
Yeah, get the 24, the 28. They're much better for what's going on in the piano, and they're much easier to sing. The accompaniments in the other are just not. And this is obviously one of the 20, probably 24, based on what it looks like. The nice thing about the 28 is it gives you an IPA transcription. You all know what IPA is? International Phonetic Alphabet. So it gives you a way of pronouncing it on your own. And it gives you an exact word-for-word translation and a vernacular translation. Sometimes word-for-word translations make no sense at all. Like, he, was, here, gone. What does that mean? Right? So it gives you, what that actually means in English. Because languages are put together differently, particularly languages that are, these were written in the 16th century, 17th century, so they're old style. Okay? I want to start again, all right? And say tu lo sai.
Tu lo sai.
Right? So in Italian, consonants are dental and they're non-aspirated. So I'm taking my tongue and I'm putting it on my teeth, and I'm not doing t. Everyone go t. That's how we make T's in English, right? We say fact. Fact. Italians don't do that. It's tu lo sai. Tu lo sai. All right? Let's see if we can start with that. It's almost inhaled, right? As opposed to exploded. Let's start again. I'm going to stop them. This is one of my favorite of these songs, by the way. So you picked a good one. Okay. Since we've already established you have a great voice, right? So you do. Yeah, it's a really beautiful sound. You have a nervous tick. Do you know what that is?
Do I look like worried?
We all do things when we're nervous, right? Unconsciously. You know what mine is? Have you ever seen me perform? I do this. See my hand? I have no idea where that came from. If you're seeing me and I'm doing this, it means I'm nervous about something. Okay, who knows? But that's my nervous tick, right? Yours is you do this with your left hand. Yeah, you just kind of do that. So let's just make sure our hands are nice and released, right? And then we're going to start right where she comes in. Can you play your first pitch? Good. So I want to talk about that aspirated T. You're doing right? Step out forward a little bit, and I'm going to touch your back and lift you a little bit. Is that okay?
That's fine.
All right. So same thing. Feel nice and tall right there. Okay. Go. Keep your shoulders relaxed. Keep lifted. Okay, good. Did that feel different to you at all? How did it feel different?
It felt much more supported and like a bigger sound than what I'd previously been doing.
Yeah. And we don't. The purpose for what I'm working on you with is not to get a bigger sound, although when the voice is released, it very often is a bigger sound, okay? I'm not into making voices big, I'm interested in making voices free, because a free voice functions well and it allows us to be very expressive, okay? And so you're kind of scrunching down a little bit, so you're impacting your support system, which means your breath doesn't have the ability to move freely, okay? I agree with you, I thought that was a lot better. I want to talk to you a little bit about syllabification, right? What does that mean, syllabification? Tu lo sai, say sai.
Sigh.
Right? You're doing tu lo sai. So we want to move to that E vowel without moving the jaw.
Sigh.
Tu lo sai. So sai. Right? It's almost like a diphthong in Italian. It's like a sound that almost doesn't need to be there. All right? It's part of the grammar, so we do need to hear it. But can we start one more time from the beginning? And practice that it's just really important that we all, I call it being the CEO of us. What's a CEO? Stands for? Yeah, chief, what does that mean? The boss, yeah? So I want to be the boss of my own voice, right? So I want to have the ability to make a sound that's free without the sound dictating how I do that, if that makes sense to you. So in American English, we tend to go E. Everyone say E. And we take our lips and we spread them like this. Unfortunately, all of this musculature is connected down here underneath to the larynx, right? Your larynx is where the sound is produced, where the actual vibratory part of the instrument is. They're called the vocal folds, okay? So if I do this, I'm actually taking my larynx and putting it into a non-advantageous position. It's a little bit more difficult. So I take the piano and I change the shape of where the strings are going. It's going to affect the sound quality, okay? So having the ability to go from the ah here to the E without moving your jaw or closing your jaw is really important. I have some exercise I'm going to give Miss Kennedy about that, so she may be giving those to you, okay? So can you roll your R's? Right. In Italian, R's must be rolled on a pitch, all right? So when you do this, crude, right? So what's the pitch? It's a high note to have to roll an R, but you picked this song, right?
Yes, I
So we want to roll that R on that pitch and then open up into the vowel. Can we start right on that? Good. Not bad. What I'm hearing is so there's no pitch on that R. There you go. Good. Do that one more time. That was really good. Fantastic. Now I'm going to go back and sing that phrase in context and remember that when you get there. The great thing about rolling R's, if you can do them, is in order to roll the R, the tongue has to be relaxed. It has to be released. So you're creating a nice released tongue position for that oo vowel up there, okay? So what's the phrase before that? Okay, good. Can you start there? Left here. Right hand down. Good, go on. And you have to be careful there. It's syncopated, right? So you have to hold those little longer. It's hard because the piano's not playing with you. It's on the offbeat, right? Or actually on the primary rate, you end it on the offbeat. Let's do it right there. Ma ricordati. on. Do you need a breath there?
I don't have to.
Well, let's do the e poi sprezza une. You're kind of waiting a beat there, okay? No, it's un infidel, right on that. Okay, good. Now, I want you to dance that. E poi sprezza un infidel. Just loosen your body. So you've learned that incorrectly. You need to look at this. Probably, maybe when you first, is this a song you've had for a while?
Yes.
So maybe when you first learned it, you needed a breath, and so you were taking it on that downbeat and then going to the second note. You don't need that breath anymore. It's a great thing. It's great progress. So I want you to come and look at it real quick. So, e poi sprezza une. You're just jumping to that note. Okay? Can you dance? It's all right. Can you dance it for me one more time? And if you sing the wrong note, we won't worry about it, but you do have to look at that. These are pretty well-known pieces, okay? Dance. Good. Good. Keep dancing. Same thing, that goes right on. Yeah. You just have to keep the motion moving forward. Okay. When you dance, what do you feel when you dance that? Yeah. You have like, I do this, I'll raise my hand, I lock when I sing, all right? So if you ever see me perform, I'll stay here for about 3 seconds and then I'm gonna move because I've got to keep my body unlocked, right? I always come back here if I'm feeling a little insecure with the music. I'm like, hey, help me out here, bud, right? No. But this is an important connection, so we have to be careful when we move away because they lose connection with us. But give yourself permission to move, okay? Good, I don't know where we are time-wise. Miss Kennedy has stepped out, so I'm assuming we can still work, okay? So we're going to start this again, and I want you to luxuriate in the sound of your own voice. What does that mean?
Like, almost like basking.
Yes, I love bask. I'll remember that. I'll use that word because that's actually in some ways a better word. So I want you to enjoy the physical sensation of singing. Singing is a very sensual activity. And I want to be very careful here that everyone understands what I'm talking about. Sensual is not sexual. Sensual is what we feel in our body, right? So enjoy what it feels like. Singing, for me, is my wife's a runner. And she runs because if she doesn't run, she gets really grumpy because of the endorphins that are released, right? Well, singing is like that for us singers. If I go for a period of time where I haven't been singing, I'm not a happy human being. I love to sing. I love the sensation of singing. And I'm not talking about performing. I'm just talking about singing. Okay, so let's come back here, start the piano, give yourself permission to move around, and I want to sense from you that you're enjoying. I don't even care if you crack. I want you just to sense from you that you're enjoying what you're doing, okay? Couple funny places musically, yeah. And you stopped enjoying it so much. But what did that feel like to you?
Just more like free and emotional. Like,
and did you enjoy that? I could tell actually, particularly the first couple phrases. Like, yeah, she's really basking in her own sounds, right? And as singers, we have to enjoy that sensation, right? While at the same time recognizing that we're communicating real words and ideas and thoughts. That's really the difference. If you think about the human voice as an instrument, and a lot of people don't, and I strongly disagree with that sentiment. It is an instrument. It just happens to be in our bodies, right? Whereas an instrument like the piano is external, okay? So, but what we get to do that other instrumentalists cannot do, right? As much as he wants to to imbue his ability to play this instrument. And you played quite well. Thank you for coming today. But as much as he wants to communicate the idea of what these words mean, he can't do that in a way that's understandable to us. You as a singer, me as a singer, on the other hand, I can clearly get these words out to my audience so they can understand what I'm saying. Very often when we're singing in Italian, there'll be someone in the audience that speaks fluent Italian. Very often when you're singing in German, there'll be a person in the audience that'll come up to you afterwards and start going, blah, 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 and you go, whoa, wait a minute, slow down. I really don't speak German, okay? So recognize that. Do you know what all these words mean? You need to do that.
Really?
Right. I'm going to say this to all of you that are learning foreign language pieces. Know what every word means, right? Because otherwise you can't think about what the song is about. You're only thinking about, going back to what we talked about, walking down the street. You're thinking about what...
Yes.
Right? And it's hard here. I understand it's difficult, but if you're in an audition situation, what am I seeing right now?
My butt.
And there's nothing wrong with that, except that your face, I'm sorry folks, as attractive as our rear ends might be, right? My face is a lot more expressive, and you want, when you're communicating, this is important conversation you're having here. I am watching because I want to see how you deal with this person. We never know who this person is. This person might be the husband, the wife, the lover of the opera company or the musical theater company you're auditioning for. If you treat this person poorly, you're not going to get hired, right? So I want to see your face and how you're communicating to this person, okay? And it's hard here because of the way it's set up, but this is something to remember for all auditions, okay? Oh, that looks so much better. See how beautiful she is?
Sounds good. Thank you. Do you want to know what I'm singing?
Yeah, please.
I will be singing At the Crossroads from Dr. Dolittle. Nothing planned at the crossroads of life, but life will find me more grateful than some it has known. Grateful to see all the wonderful things I see. Grateful to be what life expects me to be. So I stand at the crossroads of life, this way or that way. Well, which should I go? Towards the left or the right? Towards the day or the night? Towards the dark or the light? Only my heart can know. Only my heart can know.
All right. So, did the pages stick together or were they out of order?
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. So, and again, I can't stress how important it is that we all take the time to make sure that sometimes pages stick together, and I understand that. But this person over here is likely sight reading what you're doing. You know, this is fairly standard repertoire, so that may not be the case. But we have to make sure that we're giving them every opportunity to be as expressive as you just were when you sang. Okay? So,
It was the case.
what's that?
It was the case that I did know.
Okay, all right. So that makes it, so they're nervous too, right? And we have to understand that we tend to only think about ourselves, but this person is part of, it's a duet really, okay? So just, you have to make sure that always.
We want you to succeed.
Yeah.
We always do.
Yeah. And if you don't set that up very well, they might actually actively, I've never had this happen, but I know people have it, where this person actually actively sabotages because they've been rude to them. That wouldn't happen at OCU, but I know places where that can happen. Okay, so how did you just feel about what you did? Name me 3 things that you really enjoyed about your performance just now.
I like that I kept going, even
Okay.
though
Okay.
that was got a little.
So you knew something was wrong, but you weren't sure what it was.
There were some moments in the song where I felt that I was in it, but something I didn't like was that I felt that I was kind of distracted, so I
Okay.
wasn't fully focused on
The performance
the
part of
performance
it?
and the storytelling, which kind of got thrown off. A third thing.
So one of the things you haven't been here, but one of the things we've been discussing is that it's like if I asked you to give me 10 things you didn't like, you could probably go
Oh, yeah.
right down the list, right?
Sure.
So one of the things we have to, I think is really important, is we have to always hold on to what we love about this art. And whatever that is, different for every person. So really actively try to find that when you perform. It's too easy and it's a cop-out for us to only think about the negative things. And I think sometimes we think, we live in a culture where it's not okay to feel good about yourself, right? And what's something you just did, you're egotistical. We have to feel good about what we do. We have to know that we're at a certain level, and that if we're at an excellent level, that we understand that. There is a difference between being egotistical and feeling you're good at something, and knowing you're good at something and still being humble about that. So we have to find that balance. And I have no doubt that you're a humble human being, right? Just the little bit that I've known you. So it wouldn't come off as egotistical if you said, yeah, that was good. I liked what I just did. Or no, okay? So let's start again,
Yeah.
right? What do you need to, first of all, I thought the expressivity was really good. I really felt, we talked to a couple of people about having an other on stage or in the audience. I really felt that you were connecting to something or somebody, particularly at the beginning of the piece. Do you actively do that, or is that just something, okay,
Yeah.
all right, so how do you want to set that up?
I think I need to take it in the intro more because I'm not used to doing this little thing with an intro. So
Okay, yeah,
I want to make sure that when I take my first breath that I see who I'm speaking
okay,
to.
so let's do that. Let's do that with the intro, and let's see if we believe you, okay?
Nothing planned at the crossroads of life, but life will find me more grateful than some it has known. Grateful to see all the wonderful things I see. Grateful to be what life expects me to be.
I want to stop there real quick. So, did you feel successful in that?
Yes.
And I agree. Did you all feel the difference in that? One of the great things about what you do is that I feel that you take the time to react to something that we're not seeing, if that makes sense to you. In other words, so when I'm talking to you, right, you're looking at me, you're responding to what I'm saying, and I'm also judging that and responding to that. We have to have that ability when we're on stage. We can't, it's not, if I'm talking about another person on stage, in this case who's not here, right, I have to be responding to what that person is doing, as if they were there. Does that make sense? And I think she's really successfully doing that, and really getting the sense that you are talking to somebody, and they're agreeing or not agreeing with you. And so you're planning. Okay, well that didn't work. I'm gonna, how did that? Let's try this. So there's an active conversation happening, and I really like that about what you're doing. I think it makes it very, very interesting. I want to take a second and go backwards a little bit and talk about some technical issues.
Let's do it.
Okay, all right, good. So when you go into that little bit higher section,
The grateful,
grateful to see, we have to be really careful. We want to smile if we're being happy, but we don't want to pull here. because I'm going to touch you here, that's pulling on these muscles right there, which causes the larynx to want to pull up a little bit. And there are people that will tell you that in belt, the larynx should be high. They are wrong. They are wrong. If you want to have a short career and get vocal nodes, sing with a high larynx. Guaranteed it will happen, okay? So we don't want the larynx in a high position. We don't want to shove it down either, right? That's just the opposite problem. We want the larynx just to kind of sit there and vibrate freely. Does that make sense to you? So can you smize here? And so we can feel that we're smiling here. We can lift here a little bit. I can use my eyes to be very expressive, but we want the corners of the lips to stay fairly narrow when we're singing. Now, I can smile, and then when I sing, I can go back into more of a singing position. Let's play with that a little bit, all right?
Okay.
Can we actually go into that? That's really hard for her to start. Yeah, perfect.
Grateful to see all the wonderful things I see.
Good. Can you, this is an idea I like to use with breath into a vowel. What's the first vowel you sing in that? Grateful, right? So imagine that you're caressing that vowel with your breath, but I hear a little bit, you have a fantastic voice, right? But I'm hearing, grateful to see. So you're kind of yelling at me, right? And do we like to be yelled at? Anybody here like to be yelled at? Do you like to be yelled at? Right? I would much rather, even if somebody is being stern with me, grateful to see is different than grateful to see, right? So we have a different response to that. So if you want to be big, but kind of feel like you're caressing with your breath. All right, let's try that. One more time, the same intro. I love that smile.
Grateful to see all the wonderful things I see. Grateful to be what life expects me to be.
Okay, good. So how did that feel to you?
I was trying to be a little more gentle, like with the.
I was trying to be a little more gentle. You have such a low speaking voice. I love it. Okay. But you still kept the expressivity, right?
Yes.
So you were thinking technically, but it still stayed very expressive to me, right? Did we hear a difference in the sound quality there? What was different? Give me some adjectives to describe the difference of sound.
Softer.
Softer, but still powerful.
It's like more smooth.
Okay. I call that velvet. It had more velvet in it. Yes.
Oh, it was sweeter.
Sweeter, wasn't it? Yes, I agree with you.
Heartfelt
I'm sorry, what was that?
It's more heartfelt than like a little bit more forceful.
Okay. Yeah, isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
You know, that they had that response. Is that kind of what you're trying to get
Yes.
there? So that technical ability to keep the lips in a little bit gave us, and the feeling of caressing with the breath gave us that. That's not a scary part of your voice, is it? You feel okay. So I would trust that with the breath. Okay, good. Can we go to, let's do the starting there again, and this time I won't stop you until we get into the next phrase, okay? Let's see if we can be additive with all of that.
Okay.
Grateful to see all the wonderful things I see. Grateful to be what life expects me to be. So I stand at the crossroads of life. This way or that way, well, which shall I go? Towards the left or the right? Towards.
Let's work on that section a little bit, okay? So tell me about that.
How do I feel about that?
Yeah. What's your thought process technically there?
Oh, technically. Okay, so from which part?
Toward the left or the right?
It's like right on my break, so I'm trying
So we all have to pull out our little violins.
and be sad about it for 5 seconds.
Y'all, you know what this is? Little violins, right? I'm telling you right now,
Go with me.
when you're auditioning, nobody cares. No one cares what your breaks are. No one cares what your problems are, right?
So I know going into that, well, I should think that I need to support more because it's the hard part for my.
Okay, all right. So what I feel is that you're kind of shoving your voice into a place,
Yeah.
rather than just allowing the breath to take you there. Does that analogy make sense to you?
Yeah.
You're so concerned about finding a specific position
Yes.
that rather than allowing the voice to go there, you're kind of shoving it, and that's causing some tension here I don't think you need.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, I want to try it 3 different ways.
All right.
Okay? The first time I want you to sing it sweetly and endearingly. Okay? So I don't know what the place to start is. Yeah. Sweetly and endearingly.
Towards the left or the right, towards the day or the night.
Good. Now I want you to do it with anger.
Towards the day or the night, towards the dark or the light.
Good. Now I want you to do it with conviction, but softly. With conviction, softly.
Towards the day or the night, towards the dark or the light, towards the
Sorry.
day or the
You were thinking, he's going to stop me there. You kept stopping me.
I messed up the words.
All right.
To the
So
left.
talk to me about those 3 different ways of doing it.
Well, I definitely did not like the angry one. That one just did not feel good
Okay.
at all.
Okay.
It felt
Why?
like
Why?
it felt like I was forcing it
Okay.
and being forceful.
Okay. And
Also doesn't
what if I were to tell you that when you did it the first time, it was of the 3
It sounded most like that one.
that was most, it wasn't completely like that, but it was more like that than the other 2.
I would believe you.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So what about the other 2?
I liked the first one.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Probably the best. I think with when I'm feeling that
It
conveyed-
matched better?
Yeah, that matched better than the last one.
Yeah.
I didn't dislike the way that the last one sounded, but with the story that I'm trying to
Okay.
tell.
Yeah, and I think the last one is harder because it's really not driven by thought. It's driven by something else, right?
Yeah.
So the sweetly is, again, goes back to that idea of feeling like we're caressing the vowel with our breath, which I thought you did really well. The aggressive one, the angry one, you were kind of punching it, right? Which is what we do when we're speaking. We emphasize consonants when we're angry as opposed to vowels. Good. So let's go back a couple of phrases and let's get into that.
All right.
Yeah, let's go back to Grateful to See. And the last time we did it, which I thought vocally was really nice, but I was still seeing a little bit of too much smile or widening of the lips there. Smize, and try to keep the corners of your mouth a little bit further closer to your teeth, okay?
Come a little closer to me so I can see your face.
Oh.
Just, yeah, there's your hand.
Okay.
Great, I'll do the 2-bar intro.
Grateful to see all the wonderful things I see. Grateful to be what life expects me to be. So I stand at the crossroads of life. This
again, a technical observation. Sometimes you, on long sustained notes, you're holding your body, so I get, the vibrato gets slightly wonky.
Okay.
Gets a little wide for my ear.
Okay.
That happened on right, and I think night. Yeah, right, natural.
Yeah.
Can we just do that real quick? And when you get there, I just want you to take a couple of steps physically.
Okay.
So you're not, so maybe start back here so you can step forward. When you get to that right and move.
Towards the left.
Towards the left or the right, towards the dark day or the light, towards the dark or the night. Only
So keep working on that. It's still
Wonky.
it's not wonky. I mean, it's in, vibrato is a funny thing and it's something I don't like to talk about a lot because each person has their own individual vibrato. But there's a range of motion in vibrato, both, so what's happening is the pitch is actually going above and below the center of the pitch in vibrato. And there's a range of motion where our ear accepts it as being okay, as far as the rapidity of which it's happening and the distance away from the primary pitch. If it gets too slow, that's what happens when you get older. It's called a wobble, right? Or if it's too fast, it's called a tremolo. Or if the distance is too big, then our ear hears that as being off. And you're right on the edge of it being too wide,
Okay.
all right? So it's something to talk about, Ms. Kennedy. I think you're just holding your breath when you get there. It's like you're doing this rather than just letting the breath flow. Can we lip trill that real quick?
Yeah.
And then we'll have to finish up, okay? So even in the lip trill, I'm hearing that a little bit. So can you hula hoop with those shoes on? Yeah. Now sing that and go ahead and hula hoop. So you're probably holding your hip joints a little bit. Okay, go.
towards the left or the right, towards the day or the night.
Yeah. Does that feel different to you at all?
Towards
Does that feel different?
It felt looser.
Yeah, and I'm hearing more evenness in the vibrato speed this time as opposed to it kind of feeling like it's doing this, all right? Good, what are you walking away with?
Okay, I am walking, process. From the first thing we talked about was just making sure that, like, from my first breath in the intro, that I see the other, that I stay loose in my hips, and that I let my breath flow and be my guide, that I approach, especially, like, the words like grateful with less wide and spread gray, and keep it in, and I can smile with my eyes. To just kind of be more sweet, and especially just let my air be the thing that drives me and not anything else.
All right, so lots of things, right?
Yes.
All right, good. I think you're incredibly expressive, you know, and I think that's fantastic for your future. I think that as you move forward, you really want to concentrate, not that your technique isn't good, because I think it's really fantastic, but the greater our ability to create different colors with the voice, the more opportunities you're going to have to do different things. The opera world and the musical theater world are constantly evolving and changing. What is now in New York, right? Who would have thought 25 years ago that people would be doing Hamilton and, you know, rapping in a musical, right? It was just not something that anybody would have dreamed would happen, yet there it is. So as artists, we have to maintain an ability to incorporate any new style that comes into the genre. Kelly O'Hara has made her career by singing all the legitimate stuff. You know, if it weren't for her, who knows, we probably wouldn't have these things like South Pacific coming back, or King and I. So, you know, we want to carve out our own niche, certainly, but we also want to have as many options to move with the industry as possible. So don't lock yourself in one kind of thing, okay? All right, great, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is it break time?
Yes.
Thank you guys for being so patient and observant. This feels so strange to be sitting up here on this dais with all you out there. Well, one thing I want to say to the parents that are here, you're already ahead of the game. You obviously are taking the time to be involved in what your kids are interested in. Chances are they're taking voice lessons already and they're working on their art. And so I want to congratulate all of you for showing that interest. I think this field is very difficult for people to understand, particularly if they're not involved in it themselves. I'm talking to parents here. If you're not artistic, or you're not a singer, you're not a musician, it's very difficult to understand how your kids are going to make a living in this field, and I understand that. So I respect even more your willingness to let them dream. Imagine what our world would be like without artists and musicians. It would not be a fun place to be. It's our refuge, it's our solace. And one of the things the joys that I take in my life every day is that when I wake up in the morning, I know that I'm going to get to touch and work with beauty in some fashion every single moment of my workday. And even though teaching is not what I set out to do when I was your age, I wanted to be a singer, I wanted to sing at the Metropolitan Opera stage, I am so happy that life brought me to this point, because I get to do things that most people never even get to dream of. I get to work with incredibly talented young people, people that are passionate, my colleagues are passionate about what they do. We're all extremely focused on creating an environment, a safety environment for young students that also encourages them to step outside of their comfort zone and become better than when they came. So I want to say that first of all. So the thing I've been asked to talk about is auditioning for the big schools. How do I get my children, or if you're one of the children, how do I get ready for these auditions? I think the most important part is preparation, and that starts yesterday. And that means lots of different things. It means, in the case of being a communicator, a singer, you need to be taking voice lessons. And I think the difficulty with voice is that anybody can put their hat on the door and say they're a voice teacher. It's not like, you go to a dentist, there are certain things a dentist has to do to be able to call himself or herself a dentist, or a doctor, or an auto mechanic. Voice teaching is a little bit different. It's almost mythical what happens behind those closed doors, right? So I think it's really important that you're actively involved as parents in that process. If your child doesn't have a voice teacher, it's one of the most important things you can do right now. Even in musical theater, it's called musical theater. And I know there's a big emphasis on the theater part of it, and I agree with that, but it's musical theater, it's music first. And so that means you have to have some understanding of what music is and how to convey that musicality in your song repertoire. So one of the things that I'm going to talk about is preparation equals success. What does that mean? Preparation equals success. Somebody. Practice, absolutely. Physically getting into the practice room and practicing your art. What about, since we're talking a lot about auditions, how do you prepare for an audition?
Know what they'll be asking you to do.
Okay, you'll know what your songs are. You need to know them backwards, forwards, upside down, sideways. But what about the actual intimidating process of getting in front of a bunch of people and singing your song or your pieces? That's a little bit different, isn't it? How many of you have friends? You don't have any friends, right? We all have friends. So you should be working on a daily basis of singing your pieces in front of your friends. Do you have other friends that are performers? Sing for each other. So you're getting rid of that situation. Ms. Kennedy, do you have studio classes, active studio classes? Some teachers do, some teachers don't have the time for it.
I try to do that, but everybody is so busy. I feel like we should have a talk about all the busyness.
Yeah.
There's oh, I have volleyball, or I have
Right. Right.
At some point, you kind of have to make a decision.
Yeah, it's very true. It's very true. I will talk about that in a second. I think that this is to students first, and then I'll have something to say to the parents. You have to love this. You have to eat, breathe, and sleep this. It has to be who you are. Right? And I'll even go further to say that you have to get to the point where you cannot do anything but this. And I don't mean, when I say can, of course you have the ability to flip burgers at McDonald's. I'm not talking about that. I mean that you know that your life will not be fulfilled unless you are involved in some way, shape, or form in this art form. Whether it's musical theater, whether it's opera, whether it's, on the business end. Some of you have business acumen, and as you go forward in this career, you may not end up being a performer. You might be the person behind the scenes. Those people are incredibly important in our business. So you have to know so much in your heart and soul that that's what you want to do, that you can't do anything else, right? For parents, I have to be careful how I say this, but you have to make sure that it's what your kid wants to do and not what you want them to do. And I think that's an important distinction. I think sometimes in our eagerness as parents to be encouraging, that we go past encouragement and we actually are forcing them to do something that maybe we wanted to do when we were younger. So check yourself on that. This is such a difficult field, and even incredibly talented people don't make it. So it cannot be about singing at the Met. It can't be about singing on Broadway. It has to be about expressivity, what you feel in your heart, and that you have to communicate something to an audience. And the only way you can do that is through this medium. And if that's who you are and where you are, you have a great chance to have a big career. And I even though I haven't heard everybody here, I can say that with assurity, that if you're that driven and if you're that focused, that you can do this, okay? If, as Ms. Kendi was saying, that you find yourself constantly in situations where something else is more important, then it's probably not the right field for you. And that can be a basketball game, it could be watching, Hamilton on TV, it can be, doing your math homework. And I'm not saying these things are not important, please do not hear me say that. But if this is the center of your life, if this is the most important thing in your life, then it's priority 1, 2, and 3. It's not priority 6, 7, and 8. And as a parent myself, I understand how scary that is, to have a child that is that focused, but it really does take that. You have to have that sense of accomplishment in yourselves. And you're the only one that can answer that. Your parents can't answer that for you. Your voice teacher, your dance teacher, your acting coach cannot answer those questions for you. You have to know that in yourself. And if that's who you are, then great. Welcome to the world of performing. It's fantastic. I wouldn't trade this for anything. I feel incredibly blessed in my life. Okay, I want to talk about nuts and bolts now. Do we have any questions about that? Concerns? I want this to be interactive. I'm not comfortable just kind of giving a lecture. So if somebody has questions, please raise your hand. Do I see interest, or is that just a glass movement? Okay, all right. Good. All right. I'm going to go back to lessons, voice lessons first. You have to find a qualified voice teacher. Now, many of you are already working with Ms. Kennedy, and I can assure you that she's highly qualified. I know we talk shop all the time. I don't know where everybody else is in this room, and so maybe this is a pointless part of the conversation, but I think chances are your choir director at your high school is not a qualified voice teacher, and I'm not putting that person down. Do not hear me put them down. What I mean by a qualified voice teacher is somebody that has success at taking students from point A and getting them to point B or C or D. And to me, that's getting them into one of these big programs. We're talking Michigan, Oklahoma City, Cincinnati, Baldwin Wallace, any of the big musical theater schools, of which there are, probably two dozen or so that I would put in that category, that are continually pumping out successful alum that are singing not only in New York, but in Los Angeles and Dallas and Chicago and on national tours. We tend to think of Broadway as being New York, and there are lots of places that you can have really fine careers, make lots of money, and not necessarily be in New York, okay? So I'm kind of, are there any people that are more interested in vocal performance here rather than musical theater? Okay, so I'll direct some questions to vocal performance too. The issue with musical theater is that when you're done with your 4 years of college, you need to be ready to go because they want youth. You know, you get to be 28, 29, and if you haven't already had some success, it's going to be really tough unless you're an older character type voice, okay? So the 4 years of college are really important. So what are some of the things that we look for in a qualified voice teacher? How do you find that? If you don't have that already, you want to ask to sit in on a studio class. So when you're auditioning, going to a school, right? You're auditioning for a school. The most important thing, I'm going to say this several times, is not the school. It's the voice teacher you're going to be working with. If you can't sing, you're not going to have a career. Period. Period. I'm going to say that again. If you can't sing, you will not have a career. The level of your ability to sing can be different based on the type of character or the type of material you're singing. But if you can't sing, you won't have a career. Does that make sense to you? So you have to find a qualified voice teacher. Not all teachers teaching at these big schools are what I would call qualified teachers. All right, so how do you find that? When you go to the school and audition, ask to sit in on a studio class. Sometimes they're called Masterclasses, sometimes they're called studio classes. And observe the teacher working with some of their students. Observe the students. What do they sound like? Is it a sound that you like? Is it a sound that's comfortable to your ear? Is it a sound that's painful? How does the teacher treat the student? Do they teach them with dignity and respect? Are they yelling or basically mad at them and angry at them? Is that an environment you want to be a part of? Check out all those things. One of the great things about the modern era is that there's this wonderful tool called Facebook. You can get online. Most of these schools have Facebook pages that are set up by students. The administration of the school has nothing to do with it. And you can actually join and talk to the students that are there currently at that school. Ask them about the voice teachers. Ask them about all the different aspects of the school. And I think you'll get nice, honest opinions in that venue. I do think it's important to realize, if you think about your own life, if we have a negative experience with something, we are much more likely to talk about it than if we have a positive experience. I think it's 10 to 1. So recognize that in the process of hunting, that just because there are a few negative comments about a school or a program or a teacher doesn't necessarily mean that that's not a good person, okay? The other thing to do is try to schedule a lesson with that teacher. One of the great things about me coming here is that you'll get to at least work with one member of the faculty at Oklahoma City University. When I recruit, I'm recruiting for the school. I'm not necessarily recruiting into my own studio. We have 7 voice teachers at OCU, other than myself, all of whom are incredible. There are, some of whom I disagree with, but I can't disagree with the fact that they're putting out product. If that makes sense to you. I disagree with the way they're doing it, but they're still putting out product. And ultimately, that's what's important. If your goal is to sing, to make money singing, you have to have a product. You have to have a commodity that somebody wants to buy, okay? When you go to these places and you ask for lessons, expect to pay for that lesson. Just expect that. I personally do not charge in that situation. I consider that part of my job as a recruiting agent for Oklahoma City University. But I think I'm maybe one that does that. I won't say that. I know other people that do that too. Most people are going to charge. So please ask about that. Don't show up and have your jaw drop when they charge you $200 for a half an hour lesson. Know ahead of time so there's no kind of weird feelings about that. It's very difficult if you're coming in, if the auditions are Friday and Saturday, you're coming in on a Friday and you want a private voice lesson with the teacher, it's probably not going to happen because for me, I'm in auditions all day on Friday, and when I go home, I have to let that pressure come off me. Does that make sense? Yes?
I have a question about taking lessons
Mhm.
prior to actually auditioning for the program.
Yep.
Would some schools not let you do that because they would want you to at least get in first and then maybe go back and schedule to see if that's a place that you want to be actually after the fact, or because before I feel, I don't know, I feel like some schools might be like, what do you mean? How do you know you would, I don't know.
Yeah, I think you're overthinking it. Certain schools have policies about not giving lessons.
Oh,
I would be very leery of a school like that, just because what are they hiding? Why are they not letting me have a voice lesson? You wouldn't, if we're thinking of a school as being something, I mean, someone's going to pay a lot of money for you to go to a school, right? Fair to say? So it's something you're buying. It's a product that you're buying. And you wouldn't go buy a brand new car without driving it, or at least knowing that someone else has driven it has really liked it, right? So I feel the same way here. I think that if you're going to an institution and they're saying, no, we don't let our voice teachers give lessons, that's probably a place you don't want to audition, okay? And I don't know if you're thinking of a specific place or not, but most places that I know of will let you have, and to be honest with you, I'm not even sure I would go through the school. I would contact, almost all of the voice teachers on faculty are going to be on their webpage, and they'll have email accounts. I would just email them and say, Mr. Smith or Dr. Smith, I'm going to be there, on Wednesday before the Friday audition. I'd love to get a lesson with you. If that's not possible, I'd love to observe you teaching some lessons. And if the person responds, no, I don't let anyone do that, then go to a different teacher.
okay.
Do the same thing. I'm really leery of people not letting students sit in on lessons or take lessons. Teaching voice has been something that is quality voice teaching has been going on for hundreds of years. There are no secrets in this business, period. If someone tells you, well, I've got this brand new technique that you'll be a star if you come study with me, run away from that teacher. There is no such thing as a new technique. Singing is as old as people are, right? So it means somebody is being a charlatan, if I may say that. Yeah, please.
What if you do take a lesson and you maybe don't sound right or you're not happy with that, and then what if that person has to do with the admissions process, and then you might get a negative?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I really try to separate that. So if I'm working with a student before their audition, I really try to let that audition be how I'm viewing them. Now, I recognize that that's very difficult. Also, if I'm working with a student and their voice is, if they're not healthy, I'm going to be able to hear that and sense that. I'm going to be able to hear quality. I think sometimes in our desire to, when we think about these big schools, we feel like we have to be perfect. You don't have to be perfect. What you have to do is show, if you think about it from my perspective, as a voice teacher and somebody that's part of the process of admitting somebody into Oklahoma City University, I want to see talent, because everybody at OCU is incredibly talented. I want to see somebody that I can work with for 4 years and get along with, somebody that's teachable. Those are all...
Okay, so you said something really important. What does teachable mean to you?
Somebody that can take direction and incorporate it into what they're doing in the moment, which is much more difficult than it actually sounds, particularly with material that you've been working on for a long time. All the young people that I've worked with so far today have done that like this. They've been willing to go there. What happens very often, and this, interestingly enough, happens more in the vocal performance area than in the musical theater area, which I find kind of interesting. But we get young students who have been built up by voice teachers and coaches and all these people, and they come in and they're resistant to anything you have to say because they think they've already made it, right? That as a kid I don't want to work with. I just don't. I don't care how talented they are. That's not important to me. I've had students like that and it's not fun. Yeah?
How do they show you that that's their attitude? How does that manifest itself?
In just the interaction of working with them, if they're resistant to try, like, one of the things I like to do is like just have students do this when they're singing, and which is a risk for students. It means that maybe they crack or maybe they don't sound good. And so willingness to not do anything. I mean, if I told students to do something ridiculous, I would expect that they would not want to do that. But a willingness to try something new and step outside of their comfort zone. We all have areas we feel comfortable in, right? So for somebody, it might be a vocal range. Let's say I'm working with a young man who's calling himself a baritone, but I instantly hear this is a tenor. He just doesn't have high notes yet. So as I'm working with them, I might want to work in a higher register that they don't feel comfortable, willing to crack, willing to quote unquote make a fool of themselves in that endeavor. I'm seeing that this is somebody I can work with. They're trying what I'm actively trying to do, what I'm asking them to do. So I don't know if that answered your question, Ms. Kennedy, but
I mean, I don't really be interested in these things, but I want you to like.
I know.
Because honestly, Dr. C and I had an experience in Hawaii. We were teaching in Hawaii, and we had several young ladies who were pretty difficult.
Yeah.
And made me not want to work with them at all. Like,
Right.
so they would sing, and I would just go, oh, that was great. I didn't have any interest in what I feel like you guys all need to understand is that we're people too. And so just like you want to have fun and work and learn, we want to work with someone who has, and we will give you our whole heart, particularly Dr. C and I. We are those kind of teachers where we're like, give you everything we have. We end our day, we're like, ugh.
Exactly.
But it was fun, but it was like, but we will give you nothing if you have a bad attitude. Nothing.
Yeah. You know that you're not successful with me if I say, yeah, that was good, let's go on. What else do you have? Right? Because, it doesn't happen very often, but yeah, it's an attitude. It's, and I haven't seen any of this today, but there's some kids come and they feel entitled, and that doesn't work. It certainly doesn't work at OCU, and my guess is for most schools it doesn't. You have to be open to learning. You have to be willing to try new things. If you're not willing to try something new, there's no way for you to judge whether it would work for you. So that's kind of where I'm coming from with that. For my point of view, it's more important for the student to find out who they're going to connect with than the voice teacher to find out who they're going to connect with. And the reason is, if we think about this, if you're going into undergraduate school, the next 4 years of your life will be at this institution, 4 or 5 years, depending upon your degree. And at the age of 18, that is a huge percentage of your life. At my age, it's barely anything. But at your age, it's a quarter to 2/5 of your life. And so that's a big portion of where you're going to spend the rest of, the next part of your life. You better like that school. You better like the person you're working with, because it'll be miserable if you don't. So to me, not only are we looking for a quality voice teacher, you're also looking for a mentor. That's one of the big differences in voice than probably any other field in undergraduate institutions, is that voice teachers at the undergraduate level are acting in the same way that professors would be acting toward a doctoral candidate. They're not only are we teaching, but we're also mentoring. And that includes artistry, that includes being a human. What is humility? How do we be confident in what we're doing, but also be humble about it? Because at any moment, this can be taken away from us. You get in an accident and smash your voice box, it's gone. So you have to be a person first, and then the other things come. And I know that's kind of a little bit of a side tangent, but that's also very important. And if you've done this long enough, I've been doing this for a long time, you gain insights into how do people respond to questions. Some people are just naturally shy, and so you have to work a little bit harder to get those things out. But I highly recommend, particularly your top schools. I want to talk about that. So am I okay to shift subjects a little bit?
Yes.
Okay. So top schools. How do you figure out what schools you want to go to? I think we all know, what the top 4 or 5 schools are in each area. There are also schools under that are every bit as good. They just maybe don't have the same reputation. I find that schools' reputations are about 10 years behind actuality. If that makes sense to you? The people that those schools are talking about probably graduated about 10 years before. So you want to stay current with that. What does a current OCU student look like in New York? What does a current OCU student look like in a vocal performance program at Manhattan School of Music or one of the big vocal performance institutions? And that's really how you're going to gain what's happening at the institution now, currently. A lot of these big schools have reputations that are decades old, right? So you want to be sure that you're not being lured by that. Although I think reputations are important. I'm not suggesting that they're not important. My suggestion is that all of you have about 10 different school choices, at least 10. You want to have maybe 4 dream schools. These are schools that you would go into if you're financially able. If you got accepted, you're going. Doesn't matter what the cost is, you'll figure out a way to make it happen. Then you want to have a group of maybe 3 or 4 after that are really good schools. You know you're going to get the education and experience you want, but you'll need scholarship money to go there. And then you want to have at least 1 and maybe 2 safety net schools. These are schools that maybe you know of a good voice teacher there, or they have a reputation for having a good program. Maybe they're not even an audition school. You know that you can get into that school, so that you're still allowed to fulfill your dream, follow your dream, okay? Some people do a lot more auditioning, and that's up to you. I don't know that I would do less than that, with the exception of, I have a young girl who's a senior in high school this year, and I'm actually working with her on Skype. I've never done Skype lessons before, and I was really leery to do this, but they're actually working quite well, and I'm actually kind of happy about this. But OCU is her first choice. Her audition is November, and if she gets into OCU, she's not going to audition anymore, because it's where she wants to go. And I think she'll probably will. I mean, it's always hard to tell, but unless you have a school that's like that, you know you get in, and if you don't want to do any more auditions, don't do any more auditions. It's expensive, it's nerve-wracking, and for you kids, your parents are going to feel this too. It's not just you. They're taking the journey with you. So be honest about that. Yes?
Okay, so you said nerve-wracking. Can you kind of go over just a little bit of the process of auditioning for some of these top schools and for OCU?
Yeah. Well, I think the nerve-wracking part is the preparation that goes into it. And like I said earlier, you have to prepare. You must prepare every day. Your material, your literature, your monologue, your singing have to be so integrated into what you do and who you're doing that somebody can run into the room and yell and scream and jump up and down and you can still keep going. I was so impressed with Lana earlier when there was a page malfunction back here and she just kept going like nothing happened. You have to have your music so well learned that nothing can throw you off your game. Your monologue's the same way. You never know if you go into an audition, maybe they're running behind. And they say, oh, can you start your monologue here, please? And if you've memorized your monologue from beginning to end and you haven't figured out how to start it in the middle, you're going to be in trouble because the way our mind works, so we tend to be linear thinkers. So you need to practice every possible alteration. Same with cuts. At OCU, we do not ask for cuts, but if we're running behind, we're going to ask for a cut. We want to hear you, but we're not going to be able to hear maybe 3 whole pieces. So you really must be prepared. So the nerve-wracking thing in the process of auditioning probably is occurring because you're not fully prepared. If you get into an audition and you're really, really nervous, maybe you haven't prepared enough. For parents, the nerve-wracking thing is helping your child get through this, right? You're looking at how many dozens of schools trying to figure out where you want to spend the next part of your life. And as we were discussing earlier, most of these schools have different audition requirements. And so you have to figure out, I need to do this song for this school and this song, and they want a 16-bar cut, and they want a 32-bar cut, and they want, all these different things. My suggestion is that you, on your computer, you get a database. You list all the schools that you're interested in. You find the commonalities between all of them. So if a school is asking for a legitimate song, you list that as a commonality between the various schools that are asking for a legitimate musical theater song. So you can look on that. So all I have to do is pick one legitimate song, but one place wants a 32-bar cut, one wants a 16-bar cut. Well, that's easy. That's easy to figure out, right? It'll cut down the stress considerably if you separate that out. Have I talked that long already?
Well,
I have, yes. It's okay. I am long-winded.
and I would like to also give Lana and her mom a chance
Perfect.
to talk to you guys. I think that they have some insights since Lana's a senior.
Perfect.
She's done a lot
Yeah. All right, so I'm just going to finish with a little bit what I started with earlier with the group that was here. Be thankful that you're able to touch beauty, that you're able to do what you do, enjoy as much as you can the process. There are very few, if you think of the world as an entity of billions of people, how many people are getting to do what you get to do? So enjoy it, embrace it, be who you are. And when you do that, you're going to show us your soul as an artist. And that's what we're interested in seeing, is what your soul is. Okay? And I'll hand it over to whoever I'm handing it over
Maybe
to.
if you guys know what about asking some questions.
Yeah, we'll do some
Alana, can you go up now?
Q&A.
Maybe we can get another share. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And it's okay if you decide that it's not for you. It's really okay. But juggling, probably you should just give that up. Juggling millions of different things. I kind of wanted Dr. C to also talk about, on a transcript, what are they looking for? Are they looking for that you can horseback ride?
Well,
I'm just curious.
and this wouldn't be so much transcript, it would be on your resume,
Yes.
special interests. Yeah, I want to, this art is so all-encompassing. I want to see a human being. I don't want to see a machine, if that makes sense to you. So while we're talking about being dedicated to the art and being, that singing takes precedent over, underwater basket weaving, I still want to see that you have other interests. Choir, if you're the president of your high school choir, that's important. That means you achieve a certain level of personal recognition in your choir. I have a young lady who's from San Diego in my school right now, Celia Teddy, who is part of the Jewish faith, and she's done things all over the world as part of an ambassador for this, I forget the name of the group that she runs, but it's for young people. And that's important to me when I look at a resume, those kind of things. To be honest, if you were on the varsity football team, I'm not so interested in that, except that it does show a level of commitment to get that far.
But let me ask you this question. If the girl who was the president of the choir, she was like the head of the mock trial, she did all this great stuff, but she can't sing.
She's not getting in.
Okay, that's my point.
So
You have to be able to sing. You have to be able to sing, act, dance if you're doing musicals. You have to be prepared on all those levels. And how can you do that when you have all these other, there's only so much time in a day. I'm just saying. I get frustrated because you should be in dance class or you should be taking
you have to pass certain exams to get in, right?
Yeah.
If you walk out there, we hear whole songs. So when a young person comes, we're going to hear an entire piece. But usually about the second or the third note they're singing, if I'm not going to accept the student, I know that already. And then it doesn't matter what time I'm singing. It doesn't matter because you're not getting into at least OCU. I'm talking specifically about OCU. But this is going to be true for any of the big power schools. You've got to pass that first test. And for me, because I'm sitting on the voice auditions, that's can you sing? Are you carrying it to my hall? And then there are things underneath that. So let's say that you're acceptable to me on the voice level, and then we start talking about, where am I going to put you on my scholarship training, right? Because the score I give the student is how they base at least the talent-based scholarships. And so that's when I'm looking for other things. Are they expressive? Are they a good musician? Are they, I'll look at the transcript. Do they have a life outside of singing? Are they a real person? We do interviews. I have kicked students out of, or I should say at least because I don't have total control. I'm one of 8 people. But I have taken somebody that I've given a fairly high score to and said, I want nothing to do with this student after the interview. So that's an important part, not all schools interview, but that's an important part of the process for me. Because I'm going to be hanging out with this student for 4 years. I want them to be a good person, if that makes sense to you. But yeah, you have to pass those certain exams.
So when I was going to undergrad, I had to take a theory test. I had to take a history exam. I had to take all of these different tests to even
would suggest that if you want to be going to school to be a musician, even as a singer, and I consider singers musicians, some people don't, but they're wrong, that you're taking piano. You need to be taking piano lessons, period, right? And I know that's hard if you're particularly in the musical theater side, you're doing acting, you're doing dance, and you're doing voice lessons. Piano, knowing how to play the piano, at least well enough to play learn your own pitches, will save you hundreds of thousands, and I mean hundreds of thousands of dollars as you go forward, right? You go to New York, it's $200 a half hour for someone to teach you your notes. You land a big job or a big audition, and you've got a period of time to learn it. You're going to be spending a lot of money for someone teaching you how to sing your part, when if you would have just taken the time when you were younger, you could do it yourself.
Yeah, we could talk about this forever, but I have Lana and Lisa Kaden up on stage. And basically, I wanted to start with talking about like when you started doing musical theater. Lana, how old were you when you started doing musical theater?
Second grade.
Second grade.
Yes.
And how many shows would you say you've done on average a year since you were, like when you were a little kid before you got to high school?
3 or 4. 3.
3 or 4 shows a year.
3. Yeah. But like shows, but then also I was in dance recitals and other things. But like full productions, probably 3.
And how long have you been taking dance?
Forever. I mean, since I've gone to high school, it's been harder to stay consistent with it and take as many because of the demands of high school and also being involved in, choir. But I've taken dance since I was 3, like on and off, but I still take dance. Yes.
Okay. And then when did you start kind of networking? Like, what was your first thing that you did outside of Santa Barbara where you kind of met other people who were doing what you were doing, but you'd never met them before? New people.
Yeah. After my 8th grade year, I went to Interlochen Arts summer program for 6 weeks.
How was that? Was that easy to go for 6 weeks, or was that hard?
It was really, well, for the first time it was really hard and kind of scary because I didn't really know what I was getting myself into, and I was like going to live in a cabin in the woods with a bunch of girls for a long time, and it was one of the most incredible summers that I've ever had, because I think it really was the first time that I realized that there's so many other people out there. There's so much more than just Santa Barbara, and there's so many talented people and nice people and mean people, and just that there's a whole world out there that I don't really get as much here in Santa Barbara. But when I first went away and got to meet new teachers and kids, that was probably the first time. Yeah.
How important is that, do you think, to staying motivated, to being around other people who are just as serious as you are or more serious?
It's incredibly motivating because you see how much harder that you have to work. You could be like the best in your school that only has 25 kids in it, but you want to be around people who are just as good as you or better than you, because that teaches you how to work hard and push yourself.
So then the next big thing that you did was, I think you did BA, right?
Yeah, the next thing I did was I went to BAA.
So maybe describe what BA is.
Okay.
Some of my students have done.
Yes, some other people in here have done BAA. It's called Broadway Artists Alliance, and it's a program in New York City. And they do week-long sessions where throughout the week, this was more, at Interlochen, it was like we put on a show, it was rehearsals, all-day classes. But BAA is a Masterclass program, so kind of like this. Everyone would get up and sing their pieces or do monologues, and we would work one-on-one while watching with someone who is currently on Broadway, was on Broadway, is a choreographer for dance classes, a director, a producer,
So you're working
casting
with
director.
Broadway artists.
You're working with Broadway artists, and you do something like 4 classes a day. And at the end of each week, there's a showcase, and so you do your pieces, your monologue and your song, and a little dance that you've been working on for the week in front of a panel of industry members.
So what did you learn from, like, what did you get out of these kind of experiences?
That one kind of taught me to be fearless, because singing in front of my idols day after day after day, like people that I just, to this day, like I can't even believe I sang for some of these people, and having them teach me, of course I was scared, because they're people that I look up to and I listen to constantly, nonstop, always listening to musical theater, because I do that. And then I see them in front of me and I have to just do it. Like I can't just be scared, I like have to get up there. And so it kind of taught me to just take the chance. And also singing in front of other kids who are really, really good. Like sometimes that can be really intimidating, because it's like, wow, they're like better than me. But you still have to get up there and do it anyway, regardless of the fact that you're scared or not.
So then your junior year, you decided to do a program.
Yes.
Yeah.
I did a pre-college program, which I think going to a school, if you really want to do performance, like vocal performance or musical theater, going to a pre-college program to see kind of like what a college experience is like is super, super important. I went to a Carnegie Mellon program for 6 weeks, and
Can you tell us how many people they auditioned and how many people they accept?
that one actually has a pretty big,
That was a pretty big one.
that one's huge actually.
And then there was a Michigan one, right?
No, I didn't do everything.
I know you didn't do that one, but that one, is that also you have to be junior?
Yes.
Okay.
You have to be junior.
So you had classes in like what you would take if you were in college?
Yes, and they kind of set it up like, this is what a day in the life is like. If you are in college, could you handle, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. or later even? Can you do classes all day? Can you have ballet and jazz and acting and singing and movement and like everything? Oh, an audition technique class, everything in one day. And can you go home and then read a play and then be able to take the test on it tomorrow in, what was that class?
Dramatic literature.
Oh, dramatic literature. I read like a billion plays. I was like, I can't do this, but I did it anyway. And the only reason I think that I was able to do that was because I was with my friends there were so motivating, and they wanted it so bad. They're like, okay, like tonight, practice rooms, let's do our monologues for each other. Like, let's do it. And that was the first time being away from home. I think that was like my main first time where I was like, okay, yeah, like, let's do our scene. I can't, because I was terrified that my acting teacher was going to kill me if I didn't. She was very scary. If I didn't like do my work. And so I like, she expected us to every day with our scene partner outside of class meet for an hour. And outside of class, it's like we're in class 24/7. So I'm like here at lunch, like trying to eat and live and work on a scene at the same time. And that was crazy. And I realized a lot of people there actually. This is why it's important, because I have friends there who are like, definitely not for me, definitely don't want to be doing this in college. Me, on the other hand, I was like, this is exactly what I want to be doing. Like, I can't imagine myself doing anything else. And then I had other friends that were there for the musical theater program, but they're like, you know what? I really want to do vocal performance. Like this, like I like it, but I think that's more my direction. And I have other friends there that are like, you know what? They took directing class, I took improv, but they're like, you know what? I really want to go into directing now. So going to those summer programs, I think is a really good way to see if it's something that you actually really want, and then maybe you can even discover something new or have,
Okay, and then you also, I'm kind of leading you, because we got to make this short.
Kind of make it quick, sorry.
But you started kind of networking, you started meeting different teachers.
Oh, yeah.
You did like an arts bridge program,
Yeah, this summer I did 2 programs. This past summer I did 2 programs. One was in San Francisco. And basically what I did was I just met with a whole bunch, like day after day. It was 2 weeks of master classes with different heads of theater departments, musical theater departments.
How many schools would you say you kind of were able to work?
14. It was probably 14 in San Francisco, and Artsbridge was
14,
probably another 10.
Yeah, 14 in San Francisco, maybe like 5, maybe like 10 in Artsbridge.
That's a lot of schools.
Yeah, and some of them doubled up, so they got to see me again. And they were like, oh, Lana, like, I remember working with you. And that's really cool.
How important do you think that is? Like, the fact that they have they know your name and they know.
I think it's important. I think I don't think it's life changing. I mean, I think that it's nice that they got to work with me, and it's also, especially for me, when I go into the audition room, it's going to be nice to see a friendly face that remembers me. And that they also see improvement, I think is important. But like if they see me and they're like, oh, she didn't do her work, then.
How did you get all of this? I know the answer to this, but can you explain you have a person that you guys have hired that you work with? Explain that.
Well, a couple things. 2 people that I think it's important. It's super important to have a college counselor when you're trying to go to college. Because if you're like me and you're crazy and you're going to apply to a lot of schools, it's 20, which is I think too many, but you know I couldn't narrow it down. I'm excited. But if you want to keep track of it, like we were talking about earlier, they all want something different. And so having that college counselor, that she put me in contact with somebody, an audition coach, who suggested these opportunities for me and said, oh, you should definitely audition for this. I think that that'd be good for you.
Now, didn't you have to, your junior year, didn't you have to audition to even get this person to work with you?
Yes. Yeah.
How much does it
It's
cost?
a little
So
insane.
I'm
How
going to
much
tell
does all
you,
of this cost?
I'm going to tell you a couple of things that I want to piggyback on Dr. Christensen and Ms. Kennedy's words that are the being prepared piece can't possibly be understated. Lana's been preparing for this upcoming audition piece of her life for 4 years. And each piece has contributed something else to her goals, and particularly this summer with the two-week pieces of Masterclasses. Her confidence in going into an audition has grown astronomically. Just to be able to have somebody say, just like Dr. Christensen was saying, now try it this way, now try it that way.
She's flexible.
She's been working on this for a long time. The other thing I wanted to say as parents, it's you will get people who say, oh, that's really cool, he is really talented, what's the backup plan? There's no backup plan.
This is what you want to do.
Do you see a backup plan here? I grew up wanting to be a doctor. My parents didn't hear, what's her backup plan? No, they said, wow, this is really cool. We're going to support whatever she needs to do to become a physician. And if your child has that, she'll find her way. Is she going to be on Broadway? We don't know. Look at how paths change through. But she will be in the world of music. It's her passion. She's known it for a long time. And she's made a lot of other decisions through life where we've had to say, well, that's great. I know that you really like karate. That's super fun, but is that where you're going with that? No, I can't do karate. I have these other pieces of my life. So just so you know, at a certain point, you will know your child will direct the answer to that question. And some people will say, yeah, there's a backup plan, but they're not the ones that are 100%, 110% where you say, if I'm not doing this, this is not my life, this is not living. And from someone from a scientific background who has an artistic child, it's a foreign world for me. It's been we've had a lot of help traversing the paths. I won't put myself out there as an expert until we know where she's going.
Until something good happens.
Until she's in. But I can certainly speak a lot to the path. There is a lot of financial outlay towards it, for sure. There is help along the way from those that need it. But I think it takes a lot more digging into. But really, the summer programs that she's been to have been so worth it. So worth it when I see the growth and the passion and the opportunity for her to work with people that share her passion and raise her level of interest and performance. And I'm happy on a one-on-one basis to talk on the phone or email. Miss Kennedy has my number to talk about some of these programs that she's doing, some of the other choices, because there are a lot more out there, a lot of pre-college programs that are great, that will give a similar experience.
Thank you guys so much. I really
And then the
appreciate
last thing is, again, a piggyback, practice opportunity.
Oh,
This
yeah.
summer, she entered a contest. Yeah, she spent a week in Indianapolis. She entered a contest called the Great American Songbook and was actually invited to be one of the top 40. And then while there, it was not only a week of master classes and learning, but it was a contest within itself. It got to be the top 10. She performed in an Indianapolis Palladium in front of 1,600 people.
And she made it to
And yes, it was extraordinary. It was an extraordinary experience, and it was extraordinary
And I
success.
networked and met some great people.
And you gotta put yourself out there.
So yeah, you met a judge, like one of the judges was from Michigan, yeah?
Yeah, well, actually, first of all, my mentor, he just retired from Michigan. Jerry, love him. But he was great, but then one of the judges who also I worked with closely, her name is Catherine Walker. She is a teacher at Michigan, and she said, right after competition, she said, as soon as you send in your pre-screen, send me an email, because I want to make sure that I see that. And I know it's there. So as soon as I send in my pre-screen, I send her that email. And that is a little, it makes me feel a little bit better. Definitely by no means do I feel like, oh, that's an in. But it definitely takes a teeny bit of the ease off when there's so much going on.
That's the last thing is, with an audition program, there's no such thing as a safety, really. I mean, when you're talking about these programs, they're so selective. It's extraordinary to believe.
Can you tell us how many does Carnegie?
They have 12
pretty much
to
all of
14
them-
students.
Pretty much all of them have in the 12 to 24 range. Some schools have a little more. Generally, they take half boys and half girls. So
Sometimes even more boys.
If you're a boy, Penn State took 8 boys and 4 girls this year.
And I know half the class there because of these summer programs.
Because of our networking. So it's incredibly selective. So you want to be as prepared as you can, and also understand there's no gimme. This is so she's casting a wide net, and
Well, thank you so much. We have to keep going.
Why don't you take a couple steps back?
Oh, yes.
And we're gonna do 32 bars, or you're doing.
Yeah, it's about 30 bars.
Okay, great.
And you're gonna say your name.
Yep. I'm Errol Sullivan, and I am in 8th grade. I'm 14 years old.
Okay, great.
Theodosia writes me a letter every day, keeping her bed warm while her husband is away. He's on the British side in Georgia, trying to keep the colonies in line. But he can keep all of Georgia. Theodosia, she's mine. Love doesn't discriminate between the sinners and the saints. It takes and it takes and it takes, and we keep loving anyway. We rise, we fall, we break, and we make mistakes. And if there's a reason I'm by your side, so many have tried, then I am willing to wait for it. I'm willing to wait for it. My grandfather was a fire brimstone preacher, but there are things that the homilies and hymns won't teach you. My mother was a genius, my father commanded respect. When they died, they left no instructions, just a legacy to protect. Death doesn't discriminate between the sinners and the saints. It takes and it takes and it takes, and we keep living anyway. We rise, we fall, we break, and we make our mistakes. And if there's a reason I'm about to stay alive when one has died, then I'm willing to wait for it. Yes, I'm willing to wait for it. Wait for it, wait for it. I am the one thing in life I can't control. I am an inimitable, I am an original.
way to practice this is to really be speech-based.
Yeah.
So can we just do the very beginning of it with you just speaking it, not singing it?
Okay.
And I'd like you to do this on the beats for me. So you go ahead and, what is it? The Odessa writes. Right? Yeah. So let's just try that. Just whatever those beats are, and you go. You put that just with the speaking.
Theodosia writes me a letter every day. Keeping the bed warm while her
Good.
husband.
So what I want you to do though is be expressive within that.
Oh.
The Odessa, I don't know this, right? But the Odessa writes and every day. So you're really still have a lot of energy in it, okay? And then we're gonna do the music here again too, but.
Theodosia writes me a letter every day. Keeping the bed warm while her husband is away.
One more line. Keep it energized.
He's on the British side in Georgia. Trying to keep the colonies in line.
Good. Now let's sing it,
She can
and I want you
keep
to
all of
keep
Georgia.
with that kind of intensity, right? So what you just did. Let me explain what you just did. You were really singing a little bit more on the beats, okay? So which is where most of the rhymes occur. Okay?
Theodosia, she writes me a letter every day.
Good. It's all right. It's okay. So are you willing to experiment with me a little?
Yeah, totally.
Can you? I want you to. We're gonna stomp even.
Okay.
Theodosia, da 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 da. Really make it big, okay?
Theodosia writes me a letter every day. Keeping the bed warm while her husband is away.
Good. Now we're gonna do that without the stomping, but I want you to give me the same energy you just did. Theodosia, da 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 da. Right? Let's try it.
Theodosia
Not
writes.
clapping, sorry. So just your voice
Just my
now.
voice,
But
okay.
I want you to have that same energy in the voice, okay?
Theodosia writes me a letter every day. Keeping the bed warm while her husband is away.
All right, good, very good. So you have to keep, what happened is when you stop being active with the words, all of a sudden the energy dropped, right? So even though you're not clapping and stomping anymore, when you're not singing, you still have to feel that. So,
Okay.
it still has to be, it has to be inside of you, okay?
Okay.
So the way to practice this is clapping and stomping, but we can't do that when we're performing it, okay? So even when you're not singing, I want you to feel that energy inside of you as if you were stomping and clapping. One more time.
Theodosia, she writes me a letter every day.
Good, keep it going.
Keeping the bed warm while her husband is away.
Good, keep going.
He's on the British side in Georgia, trying to keep the colonies in line. She can keep all of Georgia. Theodosia, she's mine. Love doesn't discriminate.
All right, so how did that feel to you? Did that feel a little bit different?
It felt, yeah.
Okay, so how did it feel different?
When I did that, I kept track of the beats more in my head than I did before, and then I was on time most of the time.
Okay. And music like this is so rhythmically based,
Yeah,
right?
totally. That's Hamilton.
Yeah. Or, I mean, any music like this, whether it's rap or whether it's, heavy metal or rock music is kind of based on this. Interesting factoid about most rock music, it's not beats 1 and 3 that are emphasized, it tends to be beats 2 and 4. So you might practice clapping on beat 1 and stomping on beat 2 so that you're getting that feeling of the secondary beat as being equally or more important. But that's something you could do in the practice. So to me, what happened there was that I got much more of the text, and to me the style was coming through a little bit more. How did you feel about that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, good. So this song is not one I can talk a lot about vocal technique because I am not a rapper. I have no idea how to deliver this, but to me, what you were doing sounded good, right? Did it feel good to you?
Yeah.
So what this idea of energizing these words allowed the voice to get out there a little bit more. The first time, particularly when you made a few mistakes, you got a little bit introverted. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You've got to keep this, the energy kind of moving outward from your body. Okay? All right, good. What are you walking away with? What did you just learn?
I learned that I need to whenever I make a mistake, I tend to think about it. I need to just think about it and think where I need to be in a couple of beats and get back out there with the energy.
All right, give me 5, because that's a big learning, I think. with music like this, if this were in my audition package, which it never would be, by the way, because I don't do this kind of stuff, I'd be speaking it every single day in rhythm.
Okay.
You know, just playing with what I'm doing with the rhythm of the language. Because language has a rhythm too, and you can play with that. That's what I think that's why rap music is kind of interesting. Hearing what they're doing, they'll make rhymes out of things, and you think, how did they make a rhyme out of that? But they did, because they're playing with the languaging of it, okay? Good job, fantastic.
Thank you.
I look forward to hearing you again in a few years. Okay? All right, good, thank you.
Okay.
Take your music.
I know. Is that enough? You feel as warm? You want me to warm up the higher voice a little more?
Maybe that.
Okay. Let's do Hallelujah. We get a bunch of tries. This is a happy word. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Happy. One high. One more. Good. Let's do Good? Feel good now? Yeah. Okay, good. All right. Who's starting? Yeah, that's right.
Should I introduce myself? Okay. Hi, I'm Chloe Schwartz. I'm in 11th grade, and I'm going to be playing a song that I wrote. It's called Across the Room. Can you keep a secret? Seems like no one knows how to. Do you? I do, and I am not the type to fall in love at first sight with you. But I feel like I've seen you before 1,000 times, or maybe more, and I ain't even mad at that. Baby, how can I be mad at that? One step closer, and I already know your name could sound perfect next to mine. Have you ever looked across the room, seen somebody and somehow knew from now on everything they do is gonna mean something to you? 'Cause I just saw you from across the room. We never met, but I can swear that I know you. If we're speaking honestly, I know you mean something to me. Do you remember me? We met before in a past life or a dream. In the past lives, I've made you mine 1,000 times, and I choose you time after time. I choose you like means something to you. 'Cause I just saw you from across the room. We never met, but I can swear that I know you. If we're speaking honestly, I know you mean something to me. You had me before, hello. They say when you know, you just know. Tell me where to meet ya, I'll be there. Let's escape this crowded room. If you choose me to. Have you ever looked across the room, seen somebody and somehow knew from now on everything they do is gonna mean something to you? 'Cause I just saw you from across the room. We never met, but I can swear that I know you. If we're speaking honestly, I know you mean something to me.
Okay. So it's interesting, I don't know if you're consciously doing this, but some of the things we worked on, was that yesterday?
Yes.
I'm hearing in your singing. Were you consciously doing that? Okay, well good for you. So you were able to incorporate that into something that you wrote, which I think is remarkable.
Thank you.
Okay, so share with everyone what some of those things were. What did we spend 20 minutes or so working on yesterday?
We were attempting to articulate my words so that you can actually hear what I wrote, hear what I'm trying to say.
Understand.
Understand.
The issue is understanding, not hearing. I was having no trouble hearing you,
Yes.
but sometimes I wasn't understanding all of your
Understand
text.
the words, yes. Breathing.
Yeah.
Let's
Jaw position a little
jaw
bit?
position, yes.
Yeah, okay, all right, good. I think you incorporated a lot of things.
Thank you.
I still, I understand it's kind of a style you're trying to create with all the glottling. And my encouragement to you is to practice without that,
Okay.
so that when you add it, it's something that you're doing because you want to do it, rather than it's just the way you do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes sense.
So you then become in charge of what you're doing, rather than your, technique being in charge of you. You're in charge of your technique. Can we do that again, the beginning, and can we try to take out all the glide? It's going to be very uncomfortable.
Okay.
Let's just do maybe one phrase.
Okay.
Take out all the glottling,
Okay.
and then we'll pick some places to put it back in.
Okay.
Let's just
Yes.
try it.
Can you keep a secret? Seems like no one knows how to. Do you? I do.
Now, you did it on I, but I think that's okay, because do you all know what glottling is? It's a sound. In English, generally speaking, when a word begins with a vowel, we give it a glottal stop. We don't say hi, because that's a different word, isn't it? Then people will wave back at you. We say I. It's a slight stoppage in the glottal. There's a sound in German too, not so much in French. So in that situation, it's okay. It's when you do something like I, you do something like that, and I. I'm not saying that's how you do it, but that you at least have control over that. I thought that was already, again, much better than I didn't hear the song yesterday, so maybe it's less ingrained in this song. I'd like now, we're going to add one more thing to this idea. So we're going to take out as much glottling as possible. And now when you move from one pitch to the next, I want you to keep the vowel the same.
Okay.
Sometimes when you go from one pitch to the next, the secondary pitch, the vowel changes.
Okay.
And again, I understand that's a stylistic choice you're making, but I want to make sure it's a choice that you're actively doing, rather than you're doing it just because that's what happens when you sing, when you move your voice. Does that make sense to you? So let's try that. We're going to add this. We're just another layer on, right? Okay. Let's see how successful we are.
Can you
Good.
keep a secret? Seems like no one
the glottal there, and you change, because I is a diphthong. It's two vowels existing in that word. Everyone say I. So we have a vowel and then we have an e vowel, right? When we sing, we have to figure out where we're going to put that e vowel. If we're not careful, we end up sounding like we're gypsy. I, right? So, and you didn't quite do that. That's a joke. You're supposed to laugh. Thank you. So, question to you all, was that, did you get the text this time? More of the text? Yeah. And interestingly enough, I'm seeing and sensing more of your personality now that I've gotten to know you a little bit, and that way of performing.
Okay.
Whereas the first time, to me, it's overly stylized. It's like when we listen to music and we're trying to do it the way, and this is your own song, I'm not suggesting you're doing this, but we try to do it the way that artist did it. We exaggerate the unique qualities of that artist's voice that make them sound like them. And that's a little bit what I hear with you, that you're exaggerating the diphthongs and the glottaling. And so I think if you get to a place where you're more comfortable not doing that, then you can choose where you want to put that in, and then that makes you unique. In this field, in the field of solo artists that are writing their own material, the artist is the most important thing. Does that make sense? It's really hard to listen to a David Bowie song sung by somebody else, isn't it? Even a Beatles song. You know, they were great songwriters. You listen to somebody else do it, Bob Dylan even, although Bob Dylan did a lot of covers. You listen to somebody else do it and you think, yeah, that's okay, but it's not Bob Dylan, or it's not the Beatles, or it's not David Bowie, right? Do we understand that? It's artist-driven. And that's a difficult field, but it means that you have to be unique. So I want to be careful that you're not misunderstanding me taking away the unique thing that makes you, you. What we want to do is be in charge of that, so you can add those layers of things when you want to. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Good, let's go on from there. Let's just keep going.
Keep going, okay. Like
From where we stopped, or wherever you feel, it's your song, wherever you feel comfortable. So, all right, so what do we had 3 different sounds. We had 4, actually. We had right? One, we just have 2 sounds, the wa and the vowel, right?
Yeah.
One.
Okay. Can we start from the...
It's your song.
Okay.
You start wherever you want.
Can you keep a secret? Seems like no one knows how to do you. I do, and I.
Good. Try once, not through glottal in there. Just
Okay.
try it on the second one. Do the first one, but so instead of doing I, just try it once.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying you have to do it that way, but it's an option,
Okay.
right? Now, it would really be cool if you could do that without moving your jaw.
Okay.
So that the vowel shade is the same on the bottom pitch as it is on the top pitch.
Okay.
Okay? So put your hands here.
Okay.
That's it. Go. We're not saying the word I, we're just saying Good. So you're doing Good. How about you say ha? Say ha. Yeah, put your hands here though. I really want you not to. Yeah, and so you understand I'm taking you out of the word.
Yeah.
So it feels a little uncomfortable. So I want you to make an H, which prevents you from doing that hard glottal.
Okay.
Right? You're doing Yeah, but do you feel, it's all right, do you feel on the bottom pitch that you're changing?
Yeah.
What's happening is your jaw is jutting forward a little bit,
Yeah.
and you're closing the jaw a little
Okay.
bit. What I want you to do is trust the jaw doesn't have to move.
Okay.
Good, better. It's still moving a little bit. Practice with that.
Okay.
And again, I'm not suggesting it's your own song, right?
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting that you do what I think is appropriate, but that if you give yourself more options, more technical options,
Yeah.
then you can choose what you want to do, rather than, I don't mean this as a put down, but we all have technical limitations. On the guitar, there are certain things you listen to, I don't know, a riff by Jimi Hendrix, and you go, there's no way I can play that, right? I don't know, who's your favorite guitarist?
John Mayer.
Okay, are there things he does that you cannot play?
Yeah, like
Right.
jazz.
Okay, so that's a technical limitation, right? You can practice it and practice and practice it, maybe someday you'll get it, right? We have technical limitations as vocalists too, right?
Yeah.
We don't want to let our technical limitations dictate who we are as a singer.
Okay.
We want to really work our technique in, just like you would practice a riff by John Mayer, you said, right? I don't know who that is because I'm but anyway, you go back in the 60s and 70s, I can tell you all the great jazz guitarists. But so we don't want to let our limitation dictate who we are, okay? And this is one of those. You like to glottal and change vowel structures as you're moving along. So if you train yourself not to do that, when you're singing this song and you just say, hey, I think it'd be really cool to do that here, then that's your choice.
Okay.
And so it becomes part of your personality as an artist, as opposed to every time you move the pitch, you do it, right? Okay?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Can we start at that one step closer, even if you don't know where it is on the guitar, and sing it out
Yeah.
because that's the part that I was trying to get you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So one
step.
Good. Can you stay on the vowel longer? You're doing one, you're going to that end. So I just want wah, just start it. Wah.
One.
Don't go to the end, just hold it. Wah. And I'm going to do this. When I want you to go to the end, I'm going to do this.
Okay.
So I'm a choir director, right?
One.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, so you have control over it, right? So when you're singing, you want to do the same thing. One step closer, whatever the words are. So,
Okay.
so trust that you can do that, okay?
One.
Longer?
Well, did you write it as 3 notes?
Yeah.
One.
Oh.
And did you write?
One
Good.
step.
Now stay longer on the vowel. That was right. I like that.
One step closer. Now.
Good. And so I'm going to be really picky. If that's
Okay,
all right.
yeah.
When you say closer,
Closer?
right? When you sing, I'm getting closer.
Okay.
Closer. The stress is so in language stress when we're singing. We not only have to think of the syllable that we're stressing, but we tend to elongate that syllable. Even if a composer has written it as a short note, we have to lengthen it a little bit so it's understandable, right? So the stressed syllable is stressed, but it's also going to be a little bit longer. So if we do closer, I'm not hearing that as a stressed syllable.
Okay.
Closer to whatever I don't know the rest of the song.
Okay.
So lengthen that a little bit on the primary vowel, right?
Okay.
Okay, do that for me. Go clo. I know it's glottaling, but I want you to feel like you're reiterating the vowel. Now do clo, but in your head you're thinking dot 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 dot. I'm reiterating the vowel. Closer.
Closer.
But you see how she changed the vowel as she's saying? You did closer, right? Now watch my mouth. If I do closer, I'm changing my lip position, aren't I?
Yeah.
And that's going to change my vowel. My resonating structure is my pharynx, which is basically my throat, including my lips, right? So if I change my shape, it's going to change my vowel, right? Closer is going to change the vowel. So I have to stay in the same position. Closer. Just do close without moving. So put your hands here.
Okay.
Closer.
Closer.
Good, very good. Now, what's the pitch that you sing that on? So do closer.
Closer.
But you did closer.
Closer.
Is close. There you go. But don't. So I wish we had a mirror. But you're doing right, which is going to change the vowel.
Okay.
Got to keep those lips right at the same as in the O. Closer. Do 1 step closer.
One step closer.
It's better.
Oh, okay.
It's better.
Yeah.
So we're throwing a lot of stuff at you. The thing I'm encouraged by is how much she changed from last night to today.
Oh, I know.
Right?
It's amazing.
It's amazing.
I can hear you so clearly.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank
Nice.
So you have to understand that about yourself.
Okay.
So that even though not all the things I'm asking you to do right now are you able to integrate,
Yeah.
my guess is tomorrow, if we were to work, I would hear even more improvement than I hear today because I call it innate musicality. You're just able to kind of do these things after you think about them for a while, okay? Which is really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. I really, like I said before, I really like you.
I'm James McKernan. I'm a senior, and this is Sunday Morning by Maroon 5.
By who?
Maroon 5.
Okay.
Sunday morning, rain is falling. Share some cover shades on the skin. The clouds are shrouding us in moments unforgettable. You twist to fit the mold that I am in. But things just get so crazy, living life gets hard to do. And I would gladly hit the road, get up and go if I know that someday it would bring me back to you. That someday it would bring me back to you. That may be all I need. Darkness, she is all I see. Come and rest your bones with me. Driving slow on Sunday morning, I never want to leave. Fingers trace your every outline, oh yeah, yeah. Paint a picture with my hands. Back and forth we swing like branches in a storm. Change the weather, still together when it ends. That may be all I need. Darkness, she is all I see. Come and rest your bones with me. Driving slow on Sunday morning, I never want to leave. I never want to leave.
Good. You need to make sure when you finish, it feels finished. Right? So you're not happy with what you just did?
Not really.
All right. Why?
I felt my voice was a little hoarse and...
It sounds, your speaking voice sounds a little hoarse. Is it hoarse or is it just life?
I think just life. Someone told me that I talk down here usually, so...
Right.
And they said that creates hoarseness, so...
I can. It certainly can.
I'm trying to talk higher.
Talk in a higher placement, yes. Yeah. Okay. Does that remind you of somebody?
Yes.
I have to...
We had a crazy teacher together.
She would always wear glasses and she'd say, Bill, could you sing more like these, please? Anyway, that's a long time ago, a couple lifetimes ago. And I want to talk about that, but I want to address it a little bit differently, I think, maybe than you've heard before. Can you... what's the starting pitch of the first phrase you sang? Sun. Yeah. But octave higher?
Yeah.
Sun. Can you think of it as being less volume and I'm going to take you out of your comfort zone a little bit. You feel okay with that?
Yeah.
Go.
Good.
It's not bad, but here's what I saw was. I want. It's going to feel small and really nasally. Good. Keep the tongue forward. Think of less sound. So you're going to use less air. You're doing which is okay, nothing wrong with that, but I'm trying to get a different effect from you,
Okay.
which may or may not work, right? Wah, wah, wah.
Wah, wah, wah.
Yeah, now make it 10 times uglier than that. Well, that's pretty sound. You're doing wah, 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 wah.
Wah, wah, wah.
Yeah, it's pretty ugly feeling, right?
Yeah.
Feel ugly? Can we start with that sound? Just what's the first word you say?
Sunday.
Sunday? Sunday! I don't know how the rest of it goes because I don't know the song. But
Sunday.
yeah, do it with the guitar. And kind of keep it all in that place. Small and really kind of nasally.
Sunday morning, rain is falling.
Good, half that much sound though. Sunday morning, rain is falling.
Sunday morning, rain is falling.
Good, keep going.
Shed some cover, shed some skin.
Good. So how does that feel to you?
Weird.
Weird is not necessarily bad.
But it's not like I'm stretching or anything like
Okay.
that.
I still think you're putting too much air into it. I don't want a falsetto, but I want something that people talk about this as voix mixte. It's like has a lot of head voice in it, right? A lot of that kind of falsetto feeling. Sunday morning, da-da-dee-dum, right? Almost like you're, I don't know, singing in the shower and you don't really care. You're not trying to impress anybody. Sunday morning.
Sunday morning, rain is falling.
Yeah, keep going.
Shed some covers.
Good. Share some covers. Much less volume than that.
Shed some covers, shed some skin.
Good. Keep going.
The clouds are shrouding us in moments unforgettable. We twist to fit the mold that I am in.
Good. There are lots of things I can address in this, but I think this is, for at least this style of music, more the position you have to be in up there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
It has to feel like the sound is all cheekbone up in position,
Okay.
and not so. And did I work with you a year and a half ago? I thought so. By the way, you have to tell you, you've made huge improvement since then.
Thank you.
I mean, really remarkable sound difference. So good for you. Good for both you and your teacher. I feel almost like you're kind of when you're singing up there. Solomon! And if we're doing opera, that would be appropriate. In other words, when I'm singing up high, I'm really trying to find a lot of pharyngeal space.
Right.
I think in this sound, it has to feel more speaky. You know?
So just to kind of give you, I don't know if you remember, he sang everything in his nose.
Yeah.
So we had to go the total
Yeah.
opposite way.
Yeah, and it's really worked for you. So you probably feel like I'm taking you back to where you came from?
A little bit, yeah.
All right. But you won't go back there. It's like you've been to the promised land, right? So we're not gonna go back to what you used to do. You're still gonna stay in the promised land. We're gonna add this as an affectation.
Okay.
Right? Does that make sense? We're still gonna.
You're doing what he's asking you to do though, what you did just now, it made it really, really clear and like added clarity to the sound
And it lost.
the next piece.
Right. And it lost some of the hoarse quality that we had before. It kind of.
When you're singing, you have to be perfect. You have to
Yeah.
sing perfectly.
Yeah.
And when you sing with that artificial lift, sometimes the sound can drift backwards if you're not very careful.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, did that feel comfortable to you? I mean, did it feel like
Yeah,
you
it
were
was like
straining
no
or tight?
tension.
Okay. So that's what learning how to sing open throated does for you, right? You can sing high without feeling like you're gonna necktie it too tight, right? So you've made that already, right? You've made that shift. Now we want to add another layer on top of it. At least in this style, if you were singing, I don't know, Man of La Mancha or something, I wouldn't be asking you to do this. Does that make sense to you? In this style, I think it needs that. I mean, I don't know Maroon 5 that well, but it seems to me they have that kind of Fab 5 kind of sound. Does that make sense to you?
Mm-hmm.
Like the Beatles plus one?
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah. He's like, I know they're different, but without the Beatles, there would have been no Maroon 5, right?
Dr. Steve, you wanted to sing, what did you want to sing?
Sam Cooke.
Yeah, I know, what was the song?
I changed. Yeah, Change is Gonna Come.
So is there any, I know you're not feeling well, but could you do like maybe a high section of that, just so that he can, this is his specialty, so.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so then that.
I was born by the river in a little tent
sing it this way. Keep going.
Oh, and just like the river I've been running ever since. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come.
So this one is more new. The other one is an older song.
Right.
So right off the bat, what are you thinking?
Well, I mean, I like this sound a lot.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
See, so do I. I think it's a big improvement.
Yeah. Yeah, but see, this is a very different style from the other one.
Mm-hmm.
And I think particularly in pop music, the style is going to kind of dictate how we approach the sound.
Right.
This is almost kind of gospel-y, right? I think you can even do more of that. What's that first phrase that you do?
I was born.
I was born. You try that for me? Really enjoy that slide and have fun with it?
I was born by the river.
Good. So, that was pretty good. But spend a little bit more time on the top. I was born by the river. And really enjoy that, right? And face out this way so people can see. What are you laughing at?
I was born by the river.
Yeah, keep going.
In a little tent.
Good. Same thing now. In a little tent. Really have fun with it, right?
In a little tent.
Good.
Oh, and just like the river I've been running ever since. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes, it will.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I call that a preaching song. You got to be like a Baptist minister when you sing a song like that, right? Good, very good. Lots of improvement. Good work. But you see how both what I was asking you to do in the Maroon 5 song and this, even though they're radically different sound outputs, the same instrument is making that, right? The same release position here. It's almost like where we're directing our air. This is the most important thing for all of us as singers. If this gets ruined, basta, you're done. You only have one of these. They can't do a larynx transplant.
So how different did that feel from the other one? Because
Better?
The first song. Because like if you did the first song again now, kind of like this.
It would be a completely different sounding song.
Yeah.
But that's also like, should I sing it more like that?
No. I guess what I'm saying is technically this song that you just did has more like it's like boom, 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 boom. The voice, the words are like right here, whereas the other song the words were back here.
So just focus it more towards the
You
front.
usually prefer to do the style that you're gonna do on that other song, but make the words speak. Let's do that first phrase.
Sunday morning rain is falling. Share some cover, shed some skin.
Yeah. So like we did on the kind of calling on that high note and
The volume.
yeah.
Down.
So not so much, but think of sending the energy into the top. When I say top part of the voice, what do I mean by that? Into the ring of the voice, right? Sunday morning. You're kind of doing you're putting the energy in the bottom part of the sound.
Okay.
Sunday morning when I know the song, right? And I did the same thing. What was the other song you just did? The one before this one?
Change.
Yeah. So that sound where you kind of I had you scoop up. What's that word?
Born.
Born sun. So I'm sending my breath the same way. I'm focusing on the top part of that sound, not the bottom part of the sound, right? The bottom part is Sunday morning when the rain's gonna come, or whatever the words are. I don't know it. Try it again. And just focus the breath on the top part of that sound.
Sunday morning rain is falling.
Yeah, feel that?
Share some cover, shed some skin.
Yeah.
The clouds are shrouding us in moments unforgettable.
Yeah, so what does that feel like?
Just easy.
I like the easy, but does that, I mean, it's a subtle difference as far as how we're using the breath, but does that, do you relate to
It has
that?
better direction.
Yeah. And it's something that targeting what you're doing with the air is something that is achievable. And what I mean is it gives you something to try to work with.
Right.
And that's the hard thing about what we do is it's making sound. What is making sound, right? We have to have some sort of a target. And I think that moving our air into a specific place is helpful.
Right.
Okay?
Okay.
Good. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's good sound, sir. I like that.